Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. It's time to do the Tech Talk. We're doing it on Saturday instead of Friday, basically because it snowed over here and that meant that everybody basically died. So had to go and help out a bunch of people, make sure that everything was alright, and yeah, everything was good, so can't really be mad. What we're going to be doing today is doing some of the general stuff in the background, like the pages of history and things like that, while also going through the questions. So we'll be playing ground. I always don't really like playing ground during these things because I feel like I need a lot of attention to it. But we should be fine today since we're playing some simple things. So let's get into the comments. As always with Tech Talks, basically the way that these work is we go through the previous Tech Talks comments and whether it's questions or discussion points, we go through them and have a chat. And yeah, it's a weekly thing. It's been pretty fun. Going to continue into the new year and just kind of have a bit of fun. So that's the general idea. We have Kawam-chan back, doing the timestamps, so thank you to Karam-chan. It's very kind of you for doing this. As always, if anybody wants to do the timestamps, I can offer, games, I can offer some other things if people want them going on. Nice to see you, Salsalator, and also Liberator. Hopefully you guys are doing well. By the way, there was a Windows update and it broke everything. So if anything looks different, or if anything looks wrong, blame Windows as usual. If I have to re-record this over and over again because something broke once again, blame Windows, because they seem to just have a absolute, every time there's a Windows update, it breaks my camera, it breaks my audio, it breaks my Streamlabs, because basically the way that I have everything set up is it's set up in specific areas, so certain things have priority. And whenever there's a Windows update, all of that stuff gets reset. So for example, for my webcam, for some reason, my webcam doesn't work. It's an Elgato webcam, but it doesn't work through the Elgato program. It doesn't work through Streamlabs. It doesn't even work through just, OBS or anything like that. The only place it works is Discord. So in order to get it to work, I need to select it on Discord, which it isn't selected on, by the way, and then unselect it again, and then it works everywhere else. Why? How is that even a thing? Technology makes a lot, well, basically no sense to me a lot of the time, but yeah, that's the world that we live in. So the microphone fixes are usually not too bad, but yeah, a bit of a mess as always. But anyway, let's get to the comments as we go around the place. But yeah, it's if one thing I would love to have would be just to never have to deal with Windows updates. Just or find a way so when it does update, it doesn't break everything that I have. That would be perfect, personally. So we have Mac. I completely agree with your comment about the RNG, especially in Naval RB. I've been playing since Naval first came out. They keep adding more and more RNGs to try and balance it. Back in the day, the skill ceiling used to be much higher. You can now have a great or bad game entirely dependent on whether your dispersion wants to cooperate or not, despite perfect aim. Yeah, pretty much. And it also leads people more to use experts and ace crews, right? Which is the other thing that has to be noted. And obviously you don't want a situation where people are paying for power, but that's pretty much what happens in scenarios like that. They really got rid of being able to go over here. And in Naval, it's really obvious. In other areas, it's also incredibly obvious. So in ground, well, not as much anymore, actually. So ground has definitely got better. I still remember when the Chieftain first came out, and it just couldn't hit the broadside of a barn. It was incredibly annoying that was the case. But they did make it better, which was quite nice. Nice to see you, Teddy. Hopefully you're doing alright today. Oh, Jesus. So, generally for me, I feel like when it comes to the naval stuff, it can be very infuriating when your shots just don't hit, even though, you know, you've done everything perfectly and the dispersion just isn't there. And a lot of people will be like, well, you need to play around it. And it's like, you can't really play around it when your guns literally have like a 30-second or a 45-second reload. Like, you just sat there waiting for, you know, your secondaries or your primaries to, like, come back. The only way you can actually make it better is if you reduce the engagement distance, but if you do that, then, you know, people get annoyed because of the whole realism thing, and that's why they even made those maps, which are like big circles, right? So, I mean, the way that I would personally do it is, of course, just completely make it so where you aim, your shots go, but they obviously want to keep in like some kind of weird realism factor for some reason. No idea why, never understood it, but it is how it is. Hey Peter the Great, nice to see you. Happy Saturday. Sorry I wasn't here yesterday, but I had to help out some guys, so that's basically why. My boys from Avengers Squadron received some of the highest honors from the Commander-in-Chief yesterday. They gave me one of their medals. Oh, nice. Good stuff, Sal. That's lovely. Well done, man. That's fantastic. Good stuff, brother. That's great to hear. But yeah, it's something that has affected Naval pretty much since the start. But as machines have got bigger and as engagement distances have got larger, it's become much more obvious, I think is probably the way to put it. Which is why, for me, like pretty much since the start, if I'm playing a blue water vehicle, I always expert the crew. Like, no matter what happens, that crew gets experted because I'm so sick of my shots just missing. And it's just a pain. I don't usually expert crews because for me, you know, obviously the SL thing is a point, of course, but also I don't feel like the vast majority of people do just expert all their crews, so it gives kind of an unfair advantage in that way, especially if we're having a look at a vehicle. But I feel like in Naval, because of the SL gains that you can get there, like not spading, but getting experted crews is fine to do, because you can actually make it back, where other experting crews, it's a little bit harder to do, you know? Let's see. Then we have Catapeak. Hey Tech, hope you're having a good day. I mean, it's alright. My back hurts a little bit, because I had to do a lot of heavy lifting yesterday. But yeah, the other thing is survivability, Teddy. That's very true. Like, with low crew skill in Naval, you die so quickly, and it's just nuts. But yeah, so yesterday, I had to do a lot of heavy lifting, and, you know, obviously working out has helped a lot with that stuff, but I still have my wonderful lower back just being an arse. So we're going to do a lot of core training over this year. I think that's the way to go. My shoulders are built, my arms are built, you know, my my legs are very much built as well. All of that stuff is going very well, but my core is the area which really, really struggles. So that's something I have to focus on, which is fine. Like, I can do that. It's not a huge deal at the end of the day. I'm going to get bombed. But it's something to at least, you know, sort out. And it's become, over like the last little bit, it's become incredibly apparent for me that that's that's been what's going on. So should be fine though, at the end of the day. Then we have, I don't get why people say this, that, and the other thing as solutions to CAS. An incredibly easy solution is to increase the spawn points required to spawn CAS, and I'm not sure why people don't talk about it. I don't know. I've no idea why people don't talk about it, because it is the simplest solution, and the fact is they just don't do it often enough. Is probably the way to put it. Unfortunately, it is the easiest thing, and as we've seen a lot of the time with many of these additions, one of the super important things to do is to actually go for the simplest thing first and see how it goes. I brought this up previously when we listened to a kind of Q&A thing one of the devs did for Enlisted, and it made me lose confidence a lot in the project, because what ended up happening was like super simple questions were being asked about like how do you plan to fix this? How do you plan to fix that? And like the simple solutions are like, well, just add timers or reduce, amount of damage of a specific thing or do it like that. But the guy who was answering the questions, he got in his head like this idea that all of these things are massively interconnected, and therefore you can't just like change this one value because it will affect all of these different things. But a lot of the time that is like kind of the case with some things, but there is a lot of stuff where it is literally like, no, just reduce the amount of damage it does. And then you're good. Like you don't need this like grand massive plan to try and make it fit into the area. And for some reason, like the simplest solution for some people is just sometimes looked at as just wrong because it's too simple. But in terms of War Thunder and in terms of a lot of these games, what I would actually prefer is if these types of solutions were favored to start with. And then if they don't work, that's fine. Just reset them back to what they are, and then try the more complex stuff, right? But that just, as I said, like in Enlisted, that really wasn't the case. War Thunder really depends on it. Sometimes they do it, sometimes they don't. War Thunder's actually pretty good at it in general, but with the CAS thing, like they're pretty poor at it because I don't know whether they're just waiting for like more stats or what's going on. But yeah, it's a bit of a pain. I haven't really seen a lot of complaining about CAS the last like few weeks though. I haven't really seen a lot of complaining about anything. Probably because Russia isn't dominating at top tier right now, so that means the western side of the community has nothing to bitch about. Which is why, instead, people were going after top tier armor values. Crazy how that works, isn't it? Oh, everything's cyclical. Just wait for, like, a few updates, and we'll be back to blaming Russia for everything when it comes to War Thunder. It's kind of funny how all this stuff works, Yeah, it's, for me, in general... Like, I just wish they had it. They manipulated the spawn points, like, maybe, like, bi-weekly or something, just to give it a go. The other day I was at 10-0 in my 2S38 and killed an M109, which had taken one of the points and done nothing else. Minutes later he spawned in a little bird with 480 gems, and since it was a wide open map, I couldn't really do anything to stop him. He was camping from his spawn. I was his only kill that game. Yeah, I mean, the big one... a lot of people do. The big one that a lot of people do is they just spawn in light tanks, right? Which, I mean, they spawn in light tanks, cap a point, and then die, and then get in a heli. And it's annoying because, like, this happens pretty much everywhere, right? And the only thing that stops it is whatever is in... sorry. Whatever things are in that area. And it just sucks because that's not really how you want to deal with it, right? Like you want to actually have a proper counter instead of the counter literally just being, literally just being, well, you need to be on the right map, which just sucks at the end of the day. But yeah, I've seen that happen a lot. I'm not happy with it. Personally, it's not a fun and engaging experience, right? Like it's not something that really like stands out as enjoyable. It's just somebody abusing game mechanics. And there's been a ton of different solutions that people have put forward for it, but the simplest one is just increase the cost of these things, And they did it with the nuke, like very simply. I don't know why they can't do it with other stuff in the game. It's very weird. So then we have Climax. Hi again, Tech. Hello. Hey up. What do you think about a mechanic to spot airplanes, helis, and ground RB? Could possibly give it to TDs. Let's go here. Only problem with that would be the top tier. There are basically no TDs. Might help a little with shooting down CAS. Would love to hear your thoughts on that. Maybe I'm not thinking it through to the end. Well, I mean, we already have that mechanic, right? Like, I can show you it. So, if you click in the general area of a plane, and you hit T6 and then 1, it gives you the air alert. And that is That is it gives you like the azimuth or whatever you want to call it, right? Oh, sure, Sal. Yeah, we'll have a look. But so you can already do that. So everybody has access to that mechanic technically now. The only question is if people actually use it or not. And I do see it used in helicopter brackets, which is quite nice. But yeah, all you have to do is like target that area and then hit the button and it'll do it. So yeah, TDs do need something to actually make them a little bit more interesting and fun to play a lot of the time. What they've done recently has helped them out quite a lot by reducing a lot of their BRs so they can actually be used how they're supposed to be used instead of just being, you know, big lumps around the place. I think overall, the way that they've decided to deal with it in the past hasn't really worked very well, and TDs will always be, you know, not as useful as many other things. My hope going into it is that these types of vehicles will eventually have some kind of mechanic. We've talked about some previously that they could try and do to get it done and to have a bit of fun with it. But I don't think they will. I'm kind of surprised that they didn't give the scouting drones to them. That would have actually worked. You know, that would have been something that would have made them actually kind of useful. But I suppose a lot of SPGs are not at high echelons, so they probably didn't want them up there, which I think is fair. Like, that's obviously something that wouldn't be too great. I think I don't really want a spotting mechanic for TDs. I would want something that would make them more lethal. Something that would actually give them a little bit more lethality on the battlefield. Because that's the thing about TDs, right? Like, they're not supposed to be like scouting things. They're supposed to be stuff which is, you know, hitting from afar. So giving them the ability to scout doesn't really make a lot of sense. So, as I said, like something like increased view range, maybe they could give them all rangefinders. That could be something. So that, because a lot of vehicles, a lot of TDs where they are struggling, they are basically struggling because of the fact that, you know, if you miss a shot, then you get screwed, which isn't very fun. So maybe that's something that they could do. Hey, Sea-Squatch, nice to see you. But they should definitely do something. The only real question is what. And I'm sure there's been a lot of conversations about that. Maybe in the roadmap they'll have something for it. Stuff like the overpressure mechanic helped out a lot of TDs, which was nice though. Like, that was something that definitely made them a lot easier to use, and because a lot of them are big donkey guns, right? So if you overpressure something, then yeah, it just kind of gets nuked. Hey, Aaron, nice to see you. I will have a great weekend. You too. You have a good one. Hopefully you have a good one too, man. Right. So then the next one is from Elverman. And it says, "Hi Tech, any thoughts on the Israeli premium Spitfire? For me it's the most overpowered cast plane at its tier. I get 5-6 kills while casually smoking a cigarette, combined with the premium M51. It's with ridiculous penetration. The Israeli 6.0 lineup, just Prince SL. I mean, if you have a good crew on that M61, or M51, sorry, it can work very well. But the issue is getting a good crew on it is not as easy as said, you know? So, for me, you need a good crew on it because of the reload of it and because of a bunch of other factors for it to make it, you know, a little bit better. I wouldn't say it's the most overpowered cast machine. I think that there are much better ones at the end of the day. Is it bad? No, Wiseman's is pretty good since it has those rockets and the bombs. But the problem with Israel is at that lineup it's okay, right? because you can literally use it in a way at its BR, but you have to use that thing until like 7.7 or 8.0, which is the biggest problem, and it just can't compete, unfortunately. So hopefully, going forward, they can add something to that area. Why do I bother even trying to shoot T-34s? So hopefully, in the future, they can add something to that area to try and improve the CAS options. But at the BR, it's fine. I think SL printing wise, if you really want to, kind of get down to brass tacks, like naval premiums will always make more SL than those guys. Like the amount of the Moffat, the amount the Moffat makes or the Helena makes or anything like that is nuts. Hey, Toasty Nuggets, nice to see you. I'm doing alright, man. We're just doing the tech talks. Toes are fine, Penguin Red. I'm warm. I'm warm because I'm used to this stuff. Like, there's a lot of people around who aren't used to it who are dying, so we'll see how it goes. But no, doing good. Like, can't be mad. The interesting thing, at least for me, when I have a think about stuff like SL, is I just don't really think about it anymore. Like, I haven't thought about it for many years already, and now I'm in a position where I really don't think about it at all. And the major reason is because after all of the changes they made economically, to all the areas that we've had in War Thunder, like, if you have premium account, you don't even need to, like, even think about SL, or at least you shouldn't have to. Like, if you are having to think about SL, then it might be worth having a think about playstyle differences, because at this point they've made it so easy to get SL. Like, it's absolutely nuts. Like, for me, just over this event, I feel like I've made like 10-15 million, and I've been grinding out stuff and like spading it. Like, I haven't like not bought stuff or whatever. Like, and it's just kind of nuts how easy stuff like that is. So when it comes to premiums, I don't even think about them in terms of SL gain. I never really have, but now I definitely aren't. And it's straight up because of the fact they just made it so much easier to grind SL. Like, I don't know a single person who's struggling with SL if they have premium time. And since premium time is, $40 a year, that's what should be prioritized, since you could basically get that at the same price as the M51 and the Weissman. But they're good vehicles, they work well. I just feel like if that's the priority, there are better plays to hit it up. Alright, then we have OCS. Let's see. Hello Tech, console player here. Last time I asked about futuristic and fake tanks, which is always a fun thing to think about. But I've always wondered if ballistic missiles and guided rocket systems, such as the Chinese Fire Dragon, have a place in War Thunder. Perhaps there could be a dedicated line in the tech tree for them. Gameplay-wise, I think you could get them at maybe 1500 SP, and it being a single use on unreplenishable ammo. Is this a bit much? What do you think? Just go play Wargame, or just wait for Broken Arrow to come out. You'll have a really good time in that game, and you'll be able to do stuff like this. Stuff like that don't fit in War Thunder. Hey Jeremiah, nice to see you. Like, the only way you're gonna see stuff like that added is if it's in as an AI thing, and it's added in air battles as an AI thing. Like, having that in as like a playable thing makes absolutely no sense. I don't know how else to put it. Like, how are you gonna you're gonna spawn that, and then you're gonna fire it, and then what? And then you're gonna realize like the map's too small, or you're gonna be sat there and once again you're gonna fire it once, and then what are you gonna do? Like, but yeah, there's plenty of strategy games that have access to a ton of different things. There's plenty of games which, can offer these things. So it's much better just to go play them, man. Like that, that's one thing for me. Like, even on console, there's still these types of games that exist, where you can play them and have like these big old RTS battles, which you know people kind of want. But I don't think in War Thunder it makes any sense at all to have anything like that. Like, you know, even like basic rocket stuff just doesn't work in War Thunder. Like you wanna add, you know, massive ballistic missiles? Yeah, I don't think so. They only get added as either a submarine naval thing or as an AI thing in air, and that's fair, you know, because we can have all that stuff, but at the same time, it's it's just not good for business. Like, could you imagine getting donked by something like that? You know, it wouldn't be very fun. So we have MJ. Let's see what MJ says. Hey, dude, how was your holiday? Yeah, pretty good. You know, saw the in-laws. Was able to watch some stuff and kind of relax. Like, unfortunately, I was ill through quite a lot of it. So before Christmas, I was a bit fatigued, but I was okay. After Christmas, I must have run into somebody on Christmas who gave me like the death virus, because I was just annihilated for pretty much until like the start of the year, like a week and a half. I'm like thinking about like when I was streaming and everything. There was like a week and a half I was just fucked. Like it was crazy. So for me, that kind of sucked. But even though it was quite energy sapping, I feel fine now. Like I don't really hurt or anything like that. I'm back to full workouts. Everything's going well, so can't really be mad at all. But yeah, it was nice to see people, nice to chill out and have a chat, have some good food. You know how it is. Just kind of enjoy the Christmas period with peeps. Hope you had a. You should definitely visit Cancun when you get a chance. Yeah, I mean I will. Like a lot of that stuff I feel like is not going to be. It's not going to go anywhere, right? Like when I think about in our lifetime over the next like 10 or 20 years, a lot of the holiday destinations, especially in the climates which are warmer, are not going to disappear. Like they're going to stay around. So for me, I will go to those places and it will be fun, but maybe not in the next year or so. My question is, do you think modern destroyers or frigates equipped with ship-to-ship missile guided missiles will get introduced? And if they do, are they going to change naval meta? Well, we already have the start of that, right? I don't know if people know, but there is already missile destroyers in the game. The Bravey exists in the Soviet tech tree, and also you have some other stuff like the Dougie, right? Which is smaller machines with missiles. So yeah, they're going to add them because they've already added them. I think they won't change the meta. I mean, you got the Saeta. The Saeta's been around for ages. I think what'll end up happening is people will just they'll keep the mechanics in that missiles use from other game modes, because once again in naval that's what they do already, and then they'll just kind of stay the same. I don't see it really like changing anything up. It just means at the start of the battle there's going to be a bunch of people who just get donked by missiles in their ammo racks, and they might die and they might not die. It will basically just be like an RNG-ness, right? So yeah, I think as well. So I think that's what they'll do. But yeah, so there are trade-offs so far with all the machines that have missiles in War Thunder. There are trade-offs. So for example, the Bravey loses a lot of its guns to be able to have the missiles on the platform. So this massively limits how useful it is. Because once those missiles are fired, you are just sat there with one turret. And that's pretty much it. So I think the ones that they'll add, they'll take away something while also adding that thing. And also the reload is going to be the big killer for a lot of that stuff. So yeah, I'm not hugely worried. Like, it's not something that I was kind of worried about it before, because I thought, well, what happens if you just get hit by a missile and you die? Like, that's not very fun, right? But they've changed the damage mechanics in a way where it's very tough to just, like in a large ship, it's very tough just to get ammo racked and die. Like it actually takes a little bit more a lot of the time to be able to take out something. Where before, and you know, even still, but it hardly ever happens, where if one ammo rack gets hit, you don't just like instantly explode a lot of the time. Once again, it's just another RNG factor, right? But yeah, when I think about vehicles over the next little bit, one of the things I'm super kind of cognizant of in naval is until you what's the word I'm looking for? At this point, we're already pushing into World War II battleships, right? We're at a point where they're doing modernized battleships, and they're doing the battleships before the big boomers, right? So once those big boomers get added, what do you add to naval, right? So I think they're really going to extend the big boomers, and they're gonna supplement stuff as they come along with the guided missile destroyers, and also with other stuff like that. So yeah. Well, until I spade the Roanoke, oh well, that thing's just a huge ammo rack, so that thing's gonna pop, you know. Nice to see a lucky strike. Hopefully you're doing good, man. Like the Roanoke is what I would class as a glass cannon. Like it can do so much damage and it can annihilate everything, but it also can just explode. So it's just kind of how it is. But yeah, I honestly think that after the ones that they've added, as long as they don't go nuts on it, and you know, there's always an opportunity for them to go nuts on these things. But I think it'll be fine. Like I'm not worried too much about them in general. But are they gonna get added? Well, yeah, because they already have. One thing that's super important when it comes to naval is to actually, and this happens a lot in naval. Oh, I don't want to drop that. This happens a lot in naval, and I don't know why it happens a lot in naval. But there's a lot of discussion points in naval where it's like, do you think they should do this? And the answer is, well, they already have. And I don't know whether it's an issue with like people not keeping up with naval, or if it's an issue with just not remembering what has happened in naval in the past. But it is a little bit infuriating because like it is one of those things that, you know, I don't like to drag up the same conversations over and over again, unfortunately. Hey, German Tanker, nice to see you. Hopefully you're doing good today. Hopefully life's alright. Then we have Jerry. I think Gaijin should remove the APF SDS limit on the automatic. Other vehicles like the 2S38 get HEVT and auto track like the Otto, but also get unlimited APF SDS. Maybe they could make the Otto useful. Well, I mean, the automatic is useful. The major thing that they need to try and solve with the automatic is they literally need to reduce the combat distance of CAS. That would help the automatic, you know, completely. Hey, German Tank. I'm doing well. Like, just trying to focus on the tech talk and also play ground, which can be a bit annoying, but doing alright. Just chilling. Trying to get everything done. But yeah, the simple thing is, like, let's say that you give the automatic its full load of rounds. It's full APF SDS, right? And you make it into a tank destroyer. Because why not? So then it raises in BR, and would you want to use it against a bunch of, like, the MBTs that exist already? I mean, probably not. Because, you know, you have this huge breach which would get eaten alive by a lot of the shots. The other thing is, I think, penetration, right? The big thing about the automatic and the 2S38 is they're two different calibers. Like, and that's always something that's kind of forgotten about. But at the end of the day, for me, it doesn't matter anyway, because I don't know why anybody would play that BR range at the moment for that country. Until they actually put in the useful Hungarian vehicles in the form of Leopard 2s, like the 2A6s and stuff, there isn't really a point in pushing that in. But yeah, the main thing you need to do with the auto is you just need to make it so CAS isn't as extended as it once was. Work out why the automatic isn't used right now in real life, like the way that you want it to be used in game, and then go from there. Pretty much as simple as that. Good evening, Lorico. Nice to see you. I haven't used the Strike Master Sasmula, so I'm not entirely sure, unfortunately. The automatic is one of those things that gets talked about a lot, but also at the same time, nobody touches. So it's one of those dead topics, right? Like could they change it? Yeah. Would it matter? No, because it would affect such a small amount of the player base, because it's a vocal minority who get annoyed about stuff like that, and it just is how it is. It's usually not a great idea to give a crazy broken vehicle to a minority of players, especially since it'll go up in BR and then people will not understand why. But yeah, c'est la vie. The automatic, just like a lot of other vehicles for Italy, had its time in the sun, and you know, was very good for a long time, and now it gets to live in basically just a dead area, because what's the point in it? Welcome to pretty much, you know, 90% of the game a lot of the time. Like I don't know how else to put it. So we have Mustafa. Hey Tech, do you think we will see another PvE event? Like the one on Kursk with the anti-tank guns? Would it be possible to add such things to the different ground modes? Right, so this, right, I'm old. Okay? I've been around in this game for way too long. And the simple fact is, they've already done this. In the standard ground, realistic, ground arcade modes, stuff like that, they had AI which would run around the place. And it wasn't very fun. So what ended up happening is you would just randomly get shot by a tank while you were just going along. Or they even had patches of AA around the place which would just annihilate you too. So pretty much you had like this setup where you would just randomly get donked by things. And it meant that you didn't want to go near certain parts of the map because you get randomly donked. Whenever they put it like this, I will believe in Gaijin and AI with Gaijin when they can demonstrate an AI which either isn't just massively overpowered or completely brain dead. And in Enlisted, they've definitely, you know, pushed forward to make that AI a lot better. But that type of AI is very different to War Thunder's one. They will do more PvE events in the future, because it's something that people are interested in, something that people want to do. And also, since they have a lot of already unused stuff in the background, which, you know, general people can have a bit of fun with, then it basically means that, you know, they can do that. They even did some like PvE content tests, like, what was it, last year or a year before, where they gave you like scenarios where you had to clear out a village, very similar to like old games for and how they worked, and they were pretty fun. But once again, just it was more about gaming the AI instead of like coordination. So yeah, they'll do stuff like that in the future. Will they add it to standard modes? I really hope not, because as I said, it's already happened and it wasn't very fun, which is why it doesn't exist now. Like, you know, I don't know how else to put it. I'm doing well, Mini Rick. Hopefully you're doing well too. So the 3U BM22 is 225, 190, 130, right? 225, 190, 130. And if you have a look at the automatic, it is 311, 262, 180. So this is why I don't like comparing the two APF SDSs. Like,
the automatics one is actually pretty damn powerful, which is why it's such a high BR compared to the 2S38. It's because it's a 76mm and not a 57. There we go. Fair enough, Mini Rick. Well, I mean, I'm like old in like War Thunder years, basically. Like I've been around in the beginning. I don't mean I'm old. Like I'm not ancient, Mr. Krabs over here. But yeah, in terms of War Thunder, I'm pretty old. So that's the thing. But yeah, even in like the PvE stuff we have in like air and naval, like they constantly break or stutter. So yeah, it's not great. And I don't know. I don't right. One of the things during like when we did like World War mode or when anything else was going on which had like those AT guns, it isn't fun just getting hit randomly by an AT gun that you didn't see. Or if you're going along like as a formation trying to sort stuff out, it isn't enjoyable just like getting bonked by an AT gun. You know. So yeah, I don't know how else to put it, but will they add more AI things? Yeah, of course. Will they be in ground? No. No, because player controlled stuff is much more interesting and entertaining to face and also, be for too. So we have Cesar Morales. Question for the next tech talk. Should the Saddam 25 Mistral be put to the top of the Italian tech tree instead of the automatic? No. No, it shouldn't. Once again, another pretty much pointless question, by the way. The automatic is way better than the Saddam Mistral in pretty much every way. The Saddam Mistral struggles with its guns, it struggles with its missiles, and also has a terrible... Oh, it doesn't even have a search radar, it only has a track radar. But once again, it's for a nation that nobody plays, at a part of the tech tree that nobody touches. Which is why you never see Saddam Mistrals, because they're completely useless. So, as a topic, it is what it is. Like, the Saddam Mistral used to be higher than the automatic, and basically that was because of the missiles and the idea that missiles make things better. It isn't the case, never has been, for those types of missiles. There is certain missiles which are better for that, but not these ones. The other thing to also mention, looking at a lot of these things, like looking at the Mistral, is it used to be after the automatic in the tech tree, and it was a very terrible decision. Once again, just old man here. Because the automatic was always better than it. The only thing that was positive about it is because you had the end of the line changes this or last year, but you didn't have that previously, so it meant the Saddam Mistral was the expensive one to modify instead of the automatic, which was great. But now since we don't have that issue, it is not an issue anymore. So, yeah. It's amazed. One of the things I would love just in life, just as a thing, is I would love the Italian tech tree to be played as much as it is talked about by people who don't play the Italian tech tree. Because for some reason there is this belief in the fact that you have to, kind of fight for the little guy. But sometimes there's a reason why the little guy is the little guy at the end of the day. And it's boring to talk about. I think probably going forward, I'll just not bother with talking. Like, if there's any like repeat questions, I'll just do like a simple like comment and then move on. Like there a lot of those types of topics have already been solved like years ago. Is basically what I'm saying. So, how did I miss? That was weird. Alright, there we go. So we have Rafahas Hey Tech, hope you're doing well. Thanks a lot for the content. We'll keep going. The next few days, the previous days, I suppose now, over the next little bit, we're going to be doing Arms Trade Tycoon. And Rocker cut up the Tycoon tank, so it's going to go up on the YouTube channel, so you can see what the... You can see... you can see what the game's looking like, and it's really fun. It's exactly what I wanted out of the game, so I had a really good time playing it. Like, it was really nice. Then also we're doing the Tech Awards and the SET Awards. The Tech Awards should already be out, and the SET Awards will be out tomorrow, so should be nice. I have to say I was against artillery vehicles when I saw a few vids where you showed them. I gave them a chance, the Rochev and the M109. It was the best experience I've had in years in this game, so if anyone didn't try it yet, let's give it a shot. Yeah, I mean, the M109s, like, as I've said, pretty much all of the other SPHs they added to the game have, like, a glaring weakness with them. And you have to play around that weakness, and other people know about that weakness. Hey, Borotax, nice to see you, man. So, if you don't have a glaring weakness, like the M109 doesn't for an SPH, turns out they're pretty fun to play. So, yeah, the only issue is the reload, but, you know, it's not a huge thing. Because you can reverse, which a lot of the other ones can't do. So, and, you know, the targeting speed isn't that bad, and this ain't that bad, so, yeah, they actually go well. Do you agree that we should be able to ban more maps? If I'm not wrong, we can ban only one map with premium account. I wish it was at least 3 or 5 maps, or will it break rotation? One thing you gotta realize is a lot of areas of the game only have 3 to 5 maps which you can choose from. Or maybe, let's be generous and say there's like 10. So let's say you gave people like 5 maps to ban, and there's another dude in the matchmaker who's trying, and he's banned the other 5 maps, and then you got another bunch of other people who banned, you know, 3 or 5 maps in that area. So now you just have a situation where no one can find a game, right? They literally can't find any games. So for me, I think you do this stuff in increments, right? You can't straight up do it. You can't straight up do it in a way where you just go like whole hog. I think they should add more likes and more dislikes. I think that's important. They should do that first, and then if they want to increase by 1 ban, sure. But put it like this. So, over the last few years, it's been really obvious what they've been doing, okay? So, they've been collecting the data. They've been collecting the data on what people want to see at certain BR brackets, right? This has happened a lot. And, god damn, this has happened a lot, as we've seen. And basically, they have now narrowed down what people want to see at certain BR brackets. So that's why you have such a limited map pool at each of the BR brackets, because that's literally what people voted for. And this has been an issue a lot of the time in War Thunder over the years. Where when community stats have been kind of thrown into the mix, what happens is the stats that are used are from previous generations of the game, where previous vehicles are favored, and that means that certain things can lag behind at quite an alarming rate. Whether it be BR changes, whether it be map changes, or whether it be just the fact that some people just want to play the same map over and over again because it's the easiest to grind in and the one they're most favorable with. So they push towards that situation. One of the biggest issues for me is what we call the shipyard mentality. And this is a mentality I've seen a lot in War Thunder and a lot in other areas to do with War Thunder. The shipyard mentality is like this. Good evening, Marlo. Nice to see you. Yeah, I mean, we're fine over here. It's just very icy. Um, in Call of Duty, one of the things that people ask for pretty much every Call of Duty is a shipment 24/7 server. So the idea that you have shipment going 24/7 so then people can use it not because they enjoy it, but because they can grind out their guns, right? And this is something that happens in a lot of other games. Many people favor certain maps because they can get quick action and also can and are able to grind stuff out quicker, or at least they feel like they are because they're in and out of action as quick as possible. A map which is similar for this is something like Advance to the Rhine, or a map like Abandoned Factory, for example. So even people who play like high tier stuff, which, you know, the engagement distances are supposed to be longer, they'll favor these types of maps because they feel like the grind is going quicker because they have more action and because there's more stuff going on. This is something that happens consistently in pretty much every single game. There are a bunch of other factors to do with enjoyment, but in terms of grind, that's what happens. So what will happen is this, okay? Because this has happened with the game mode stuff in other games, and even in War Thunder it's happened. If you give people so many ways of banning something or getting rid of it, then you will just play the same map over and over and over and over again. Everybody gets used to that map and only plays that map. And then what ends up happening is because everybody's used to that map, no matter what new map comes in, people don't like it because it's different and they ban it instantly. So therefore you never see the new map and you keep playing the same thing over and over again and people get more and more frustrated. Which is why there's a really, really tough balance between there's a really tough balance that has to be sought out between comfort and then also new stuff. So if you give people a metric ton of bans or a metric ton of stuff to go after the matchmaker, people will only see one or two maps over and over and over again and nothing else, right? I will like to remind people what used to happen, and I don't know if you can do it anymore, but this used to happen a lot. People would force stack and they would all ban a different map. So basically you would have 4 map bans, and what would happen with that is you would only see like a few maps over and over again and nothing else, right? I don't think that's how the system works anymore, and I saw a lot of complaining about the fact that they changed the system so that, you know, it doesn't happen anymore. But that needed to happen because otherwise people once again were abusing the system. And this was a lot of high-end players, a lot of even CCs I saw talking about it, and many other things. So you have like this setup where, you know, you want to be able to control what map, you know, you're playing and what you want to see. But think about the fact that what if everybody else also feels like that, and also at the same time they decide they don't want to play any of your maps. So now they don't get to play with you, you don't get to play with them, and there aren't enough people on your side who want to play. So you just sit in a queue time forever because you can't find a game. It's just like the BR thing again. And you've got to ask yourself, like, the first thing that has to happen, which is a really interesting conversation and not an easy one, by the way, is why do people like certain maps? Why do different people enjoy different things? And what, not even looking at like the statistical basis, which generally is the way to go for these things, but just look at it from a point of view of, why am I enjoying this? And that's a very tough question, because a lot of the reasons why you enjoy stuff is kind of subconscious, or because of factors which have nothing to do with the thing itself. It's very weird how the mind works. But you need to work that out, and then after that, you need to have a chat with other people, see what their opinions are, and then kind of go from there. It's tough. It really is. So yeah, should we get more map bans? Maybe like one more, but 3 or 5? I mean, you're basically annihilating whole map brackets there. I think what they should do is they should loosen up the types of maps that you can see at different BRs, because as I said, it's pretty well in now. You know what I mean? Like it's it's pretty like sorted. So for me, loosen that a bit again, just so we can get some new opinions and new thoughts into things, and then after that, give one more ban. But more than that, probably not. So we have OCS again. I don't know if I'm allowed to do this, but I have another question. I mean, as long as you don't go too crazy with it. What is the criteria of a vehicle being added as a premium versus into a tech tree? Is there a way to predict this? No, not really. Hey, Abby, nice to see you. Hopefully you're doing good. Hopefully life's alright. There isn't really a known criteria. There isn't a public criteria on what gets picked for a premium and what gets picked for a standard thing. So generally, that's not something that is available. Like, so there you can. It's just like, why has like a certain vehicle been added to a certain nation? Every single reason has been added, or every single reason can be used for pretty much everything. So yeah, there isn't really like a way of working it out. Usually it's stuff which is comparable to the vehicles that are at its BR, with a slight gimmick or difference to make it either slightly better or slightly worse. Right? Like that's that's pretty much it. So I don't know. But no, if there was a set of rules, then the problem with writing a set of rules like that down is they would be broken constantly, and people would just, kind of scream about it, and they would be right to, because it wouldn't be a fair thing. So yeah, they don't. Hey Whitman, nice to see you. Nice to see you too, Professor X. Hopefully you're doing well, man. Hopefully life's good. You doing alright? Right. So we have Robertish. Question for the next Tech Talk. Dun, dun, dun. How do you think supply vehicles would work in War Thunder? The answer is no. Anything that cannot defend itself in any way against other vehicles is a no. The reason I understand that a lot of this stuff has been written out. Supply vehicles can work in one way and one way only. The way that they work already, as AI units to be destroyed. If you decide to add them in as player-controlled things in stuff such as standard matchmaking, what you are dooming is a team to lose. So basically what that means is if I turn up on a team and I just have a bunch of CCKWs there, or if I have a bunch of, trucks on my team, I would just leave the battle. Because I know I'm going to have to trade 5 to 6 to 1 to be able to deal with it. Any vehicle, right, that cannot defend itself against an enemy force, I do not want in the game. Right? Simple as. Have it as an AI, make it so it can get, destroyed by people, but please do not put on my team or on the enemy team people who are useless. And the vast majority of the time, that is what they are. The Type 93 scenario. When the Type 93 got added, or even today, all they could do is cap a point, taking score away from other players, by the way, because they were doing it so quickly, and then scouting. That's all they can do. Their missiles were useless. They are better today than they were, but that was all they could do. So when the Type 93 came out, and you had 3 or 4 on your team, and the other team had full MBTs, you just lost. Same idea with like scout helicopters, same idea with any of these general things. If you want to have it so there's like a kill streak in arcade that you can call in, and it brings in like an AI truck which like turns up in a part of the map and you can get resources from it, sure. But no player controlled stuff, please. It would be a very, very, very bad idea. There are plenty of games which fully simulate supply lines, if that's what you're interested in. What is that game? Which overexpanded? People wanted me to like play it for years, and I just never did. What was the game called? Naval could use that idea? Well, yeah, because there's actual ships in Naval which are designed for that, right? Yeah, Foxhole. Just go play Foxhole, or go play like any RTS, like Wargame, or wait for Broken Arrow to come out. Hearts of Iron, yeah, like any map-based thing, just go play those, you know? In a PvP setting, they make no sense. So we have Type 10. Hey, Tech. Always thought of living around mountains gives you a different perspective on life. Probably. It's less windy. But, yeah. Those poor American teams just get destroyed, even though they have really good vehicles. Hopefully it recovers. Is the ZTZ-96 a better T-72? When they have the same playstyle? When they have the same playstyle when I watch them. Funny how I pay 710,000 SL for the Type 93, which is just a truck. I'm having a good time with the China. I'm close to the ice too. Have a good day, and water good. Water is indeed good. So the ZTZ, compared to the T-72, it has like better factors and then worse factors, right? But basically you play them the same way. So the autoloaders are pretty much the same. I think the Chinese one, it used to get better rounds. I don't know if it still gets better rounds. That is something to have a look at. But then also, at the same time, one of the big things which is nice about the Chinese one is it gets access to thermals at a much lower BR than the T-72s. So what this means is that you can actually, you know, if you had like night battles or anything like that, it's easier to play. They still have the same problems though, as I said, like they're literally exactly the same issues. So they have the slow reverse, they have the longer reload than a lot of vehicles, and also at the same time, they have problems with their low glacis, gunner's port, you know, breach, same stuff as always. So it's just how it is. They're basically the same. And yeah, I mean, we just talked about the Type 93, right? Like the Type 93 as a vehicle is probably one of the most annoying to have on a team. But as I said, it's a bit more useful now. So thumbs up, I suppose. It's slightly better than useless. Hey, I took notes. Nice to see you, man. Yeah, it's Tech Talk time. Because we didn't get to do it yesterday because we had to help out some people, so... Yeah. Yeah. Well done for being slightly less than useless. We should add more of those silly vehicles. So we have Insane Robert. Hey, Tech. Hello. Da-da-da. I have a question about some of USSR jets being able to turn better in-game without consequences in realistic battles. Like the Mig-21 without stalling at lower speeds, or the Mig-23 without whipping wings above 7 Gs. Mig-21s definitely do stall. Like the Mig-21s have about 3 good turns, and then basically after that you're a sitting duck. So, like, oh dear. So basically it's one of those things where, you know, you can... I mean, what do you mean by like stalling? Do you mean like going straight up and then not being able to do much? Or do you mean like in sustained turning engagements, going really slow? Because they definitely do that. The MiG-23, yeah, that I've been playing it recently, the MiG-23M. It is kind of weird how that vehicle goes. So, with a lot of other swing-wing aircraft that I've played, they have a tendency, especially if you stick them on auto, you rapidly change speed too quickly, and then your wing falls off. The MiG-23 M that I've been playing, it doesn't do that. It feels very similar to the F5, where you can kind of pull it as hard as you want, and it will actually respond pretty quickly, which is quite nice. With more jets joining and each patch released, you believe their in-game flight model should be updated closer to real life. The same rule should apply for other nations and jets as well. It just feels weird to me how some jets can rip off wings with ease when reaching their structural limits, while others can be abused in flight without suffering real consequences for doing so. I mean, sure. Like, I think the major issue with stuff like the MiG-23 though is like it just comes down to kind of sourcing, right? Like one of the things that was kind of interesting over like the last little bit is I saw a lot of people complaining that Russian planes don't break their wings. Which is fair because they don't. But the reason why they don't break their wings a lot of the time is because they can't actually reach the speeds and turn fast enough at those speeds to break their wings. So, for example, if you've ever played the MiG-17, the MiG-19 specifically, or the MiG-15s, once again, just go play them for a start because it's important to have, different perspectives on things. Especially if you want to chat about them. But just how like stuff like the G91 and the Sabre breaks its wings, one of the things that's nuts about the MiG-15, the MiG-17 and the MiG-19 is even though you can't break them, you compress to hell in those machines. So in a Sabre, you actually have an opportunity to turn at those high speeds and to be able to manipulate how your plane plays. But you also have the opportunity to fall apart. Whereas in a MiG-15, you can't. You just compress to all hell in that thing. So you don't break apart, but also you just can't do anything in it. What does compress to hell mean? Your controls become incredibly unresponsive. So, whereas in some vehicles, when you go at certain speed, let's say you pull up on the elevator, if you pull up too hard, your wing will just like snap off because it will be overloaded. It will go over its limit, its overload limit, and its wing will fall off. Other vehicles compress, meaning that when you hit that button to be able to hit the elevator, it's as if there's like pressure on the elevator and the pilot, and they're not able to pull as hard. So you kind of sat there in this middle ground where you're not able to actually turn as fast as the other guys, but also you can't rip your wings, right? So that's pretty much what's happening with a lot of Russian aircraft. And I don't know whether it's like a technical data thing. I don't know whether it's, how they're designed. But yeah, it's very annoying is the way to put it. It's incredibly annoying in general to play with. And I wish actually, as somebody who's played a lot of those vehicles, I actually prefer having something where the wing falls off instead of it compressing. This was when I was playing the FAU-2. Now, obviously, you would rather not have either, right? But when I was playing the FAU-2, one of its criminal issues is between 1,000 kilometers an hour and about 700, the elevator goes from about like 60% to 100% at around about like 800 kilometers an hour. So if you're just pulling with the elevator, the instructor will just flip your elevator and will give you extra degrees in it, and your wing just plops off because your overload limit goes up by a lot, right? But the maximum overload doesn't, so your wing falls off. It's really annoying. In that scenario, I would actually prefer if the machine compressed a little bit more. So therefore, through that area, it would basically like sit there while it reduces and then gradually increase as it goes along the way. But that's not how a lot of these machines work. So it's a balance between the two things, right? And some vehicles are a little bit this way, and other vehicles are a little bit this way. But the main thing that has to be done is play these things. Do not sit there and just look at stats, right? And look at what they should be like historically. Play them in the game, right? Play all of them in the game, which isn't, too crazy to do. And then from there, get a feeling of the difference between those two sides of the equation and kind of work out which one you fit better with. If you wanna do the historical argument thing, you can do, and as we go along, as we go into the future and we get more and more machines which have less and less data on them, I'm sure we'll have some fantastic discussions, just like we do with ground vehicles when it comes to these things. But at the end of the day, the big thing in War Thunder is about feeling between those two factors. So yeah, hopefully if they are supposed to be different historically and there is data to support that and also not conflicting data, then do it. Like, why not? Go crazy. If that's the case. But also at the same time, you got to try and work out why they like what they are now. Is it because there's data found which is different? Is it because they're relying on different sources? Is it a gameplay balance thing, which, hopefully it isn't? Or is it something else, right? But then again, in air, we've had a ton of gameplay balance things, even for the US, with stuff like the F5A and the F5C, when they shouldn't have got countermeasures, right? So maybe it is kind of a gameplay thing. Who knows? Like, it could be either. Kind of sucks. So then we have oh, nice to see you, Juan, by the way. Hopefully you're doing good, man. Hopefully life's alright and you're doing well. So you guys got a lot of stuff. There's just cold down here. No, we didn't get a lot of snow, Juan. We got like maybe 5 millimeters. But the problem is, I don't know how it is near you, just like south of me. But up here, if there's any snow, everything just dies. Like, people don't know how to drive. Nobody has snow tires because I don't know why they don't have snow tires. But yeah, everything just grinds to a halt. So that's pretty much what's happened here. We have a very small amount of snow, but it's like minus 14 or something, which once again isn't crazy cold, by the way. As someone who's dealt with like minus 40, minus 45. But yeah, there's just summer in the ecosystem over here, which means once there is any snow, everybody just doesn't know how to do anything. Yeah, exactly, Abby. It's crazy. Like, people really just, they don't want to put the extra expense out. They'd rather take the risk. And every year there's people who lose, basically. So, yeah, simple as. Think of turning a gear that is rusted shut. The handle locks up and won't turn the gear. Compression is like your plane parts locking with air pressure. You get too much force for the parts to move, they freeze, and the resistance is greater than the control. Yeah, pretty much. That's a good way of describing it, actually. Sounds like the UK? Oh, well, yeah. Well, the UK, when I lived in the UK, they were all so terrible with snow. But most of Canada's pretty good with snow, just not this area. Because it doesn't usually snow that much here, so people just get nuked for like 2 weeks a year. So then we have, Guel Mevitorio. Sorry if I got that wrong. It's a hell of a name, though. Thoughts on the MiG-31? I personally feel like the game is more than ready for it, and that it would have added back in La Royale over the Su-25T and the MiG-25, and with a MiG-25 as a premium over the Su-39. Thoughts? The MiG-25 does not fit in the game at all, and I'm pretty sure that didn't we have a look at the MiG-31 last week? Somebody has obviously made a video on the MiG-31. Who is it? Does anybody know? Because the MiG-31 has been brought up like 10 times in the last week or so. So the MiG-31's an upgrade of the MiG-25, right? And the MiG-25 was notoriously overblown as a vehicle, meaning that it was a lot worse than it was portrayed. And I've actually done a video on the MiG-25, actually a few videos on the MiG-25, and it's actually it has a really interesting story because it's a perfect story of what would be classed as propaganda. A vehicle which was a vehicle which is actually more interesting in aviation history because of what it spawned and not actually how good it was, which which is quite funny. Like the reason why America kind of went, oh, okay, we need to actually really focus now, was because of the MiG-25, because it was coming out as breaking all these records. Oh, it looked really scary, and obviously Russia being Russia, they put out a bunch of stats, and it was a little bit overblown, let's say, for what it was. But yeah, that pretty much kick-started the American dominance of the air. Stuff like the F-15 coming around, even stuff like the Hornet eventually, the F-22, it made America the dominant force that it is today. Will they add them to the game? Yeah, they will. Will they be as good as people want? No. Those vehicles will be ones which will be heavily critiqued by people when it comes to their flight models. Yeah. Oh, does he, Professor X? Well, there we go. I suppose that's what happens when you have to keep farming content over and over again. Just like keep bringing up the same stuff over and over again. That's why I feel like sometimes with the tech talks though, like we go through like very similar comments like over and over again. But yeah, stuff like that doesn't fit in the game, just like a lot of other stuff doesn't fit in the game. So you might see it added just because of its historical factor, but it's never really going to be a interesting one. What I would actually much prefer, from a USSR point of view, I would actually want more of their funky designs which they built when they were trying to get into the jet age. So you know how we have stuff like the Yak-15, the Yak-17? I would love the kind of vehicles when Britain decided to give them, I think it was the Meteor engine, wasn't it? Pretty sure it was the Meteor engine. I think it would be pretty cool to see all those funky vehicles that they built around those ideas. Like the Russians made like a Meteor, like basically. It was pretty cool, and a lot of very odd like weird interceptors in like the late 40s, early 50s. Like there's a metric ton of them because they just couldn't get it right. so they just kept building stuff over and over and over again. And yeah, they're just a lot of wonky jets that don't really fit in War Thunder, but have quite a lot of historical significance. For me, those types of things are just like so much more interesting than stuff like the MiG-25. Like the MiG-25 is just a dart with a missile on it. Like, do you really want that? Is that like a really fun and interesting playstyle to you? I don't think so. Like, vehicles in air which have super limiting factors to them are not fun. The vehicles that fit the best in air are vehicles where instead of having to play around your own weaknesses, you can focus on what the enemy's weaknesses are and then go from there. So, for example, the Typhoon here, right, that we're looking at, the Typhoon has a criminal issue with it. And it is the fact that at high speeds, the Typhoon compresses. We were talking about that before, how, vehicles compress. So if it ever attacks you at high speed, you just have to survive one turn in something like this, the BF-109, and it can't do anything because it has to reset so far away, you then take the advantage of the game, right? And also the rudder locks up incredibly like quickly, even at mediocre speeds. So for the Typhoon, you can play around that disadvantage and annihilate it. This one, the BF-109F, the engine overheats really aggressively. So if you're in a prolonged fight with a Bf-109F, the vehicle itself will just fall apart if you give it enough time, right? So you have to manage that, and that's not easy to do. Same issue with the Spitfire Mark 1A. So these types of vehicles, they have an inherent weakness, and you can attack them on it, right? So playing them isn't always as fun because, you basically have to deal with that. Whereas vehicles which don't have these things, the G55S, for example, or vehicles which have very small weaknesses like, offensive armaments, like the Bf-109E1, the Emil E1 has this like kind of issue where it's good at everything, but it does have a bit of a problem with its armament. Those vehicles for me are my favorite. The MiG-25 has a ton of issues. So like the idea that vehicle would be fun in any way, shape, or form, just doesn't seem to work. It has one cool thing. It goes fast. And, a lot of people will go, well, the F-104 goes fast. Yeah, but the F-104 can also tweak its elevator like, a druggie on Spice, or it also has the Vulcan, right? Where the MiG-25 has to rely on some pretty shoddy weaponry, if we're honest. The MiG-25 is a high-altitude interceptor, so no, it's not a multi-role vehicle. The Soviets didn't really do multi-role stuff at all, if we're honest. They've only really started to do it recently, and yeah, they're, as usual, about 40 or 50 years behind. So yeah, it's an interesting thing to look into, but at the same time, why do you think it hasn't been added, right? Hey Moon, nice to see you. Nice to see you too, Ziffer. Hopefully you're doing good. Like, they'll add him in at some point, and I'm sure we'll see him. But yeah, like, just think about this stuff, MiG-31 and R-37, please. I have no idea what the R-37 is. So then we have like your Cut G, with the age-old argument about SPAA being OP over planes. I find that when people want over the top planes, don't want over the top SPAA or SAMs in the game. I've shown people I've chatted to what the A10s in a down tier can get up to, 15 ground kills with MAVs alone, because nothing can touch you with that range that MAVs have. So in short, more SPAA for everyone. Let's make it nuts. Yeah, I agree. There is the biggest issue with a lot of CAS is not actually at their BR. It's in a full down tier. For example, anything with guided bombs. If you have a look at, let's say, the what's it called? Oh, I'm the type of guy who likes to walk around. What is the vehicle called? The A4, right? The A4, A4E for Israel or for America. Gets 3 guided bombs, and it can be at 7.7. So you don't even have like, you got the M163, have you? All right, well that's American, so that's off the thing. Oh, it's Israeli, okay, so that's off the thing, so you can't deal with that. You're gonna use a shilka to destroy these things? It ain't happening, son. Like, I don't know how else to put it. Like, it ain't happening. Well, yeah, even stuff like the AE at 9.3. Like, at 8.3, what do you got? A Gepard? Oh, cool, I can outrange you. Any gun AA, you can outrange. Like, the only ones that have a chance are the Veek or the Sergeant York. Like, that's literally it, That's a Sav. Nice to see Savs about. They're very powerful vehicles. But yeah, so the issue is the down tier stuff. And then, there's a decent amount of people who go, well, if you put them up in BR, then what are they going to do? Well, to be honest, I don't care what they do. They can go and do whatever they want. Because, they've taken over the game for so long. What they really should do is a situation like that is, okay, if you have guided bombs, you're at a higher BR. If you have not guided bombs, you're at a lower BR. That would be much better to do. Oh, he's just shooting me through smoke. Nice. So that would be perfect to do. But they'll never do that. Because I don't know. But that would be it, right? If you have this vehicle, it's at 9.0, 9.3, or even higher, with guided bombs. Without the guided bombs, it's at 8.7, right? That would be much better. Snipe with the ZSU-57. Nice to see you, Bosun. I like your confidence. Because it's much more than mine. But yeah, so a lot of the time you don't even know it's coming. The A6E, like the tram, Jesus, man. Like that thing in a down tier, you just can't touch it. There's nothing you can do. But yeah, so more AAs is good. They should keep adding more and more in. You know, they shouldn't worry about adding other stuff. You know, the fact that CAS at this moment in time is in such a powerful position in so many different areas just because of their ability to be able to trade so much better than everything else. It's just not fun. So, like with an A4, if there isn't a plane up, that's 3 kills without even thinking. Like, is that fun? Not really. And I talked about it in a video. Like about 6 to 8 months ago. And there was a lot of pushback from people saying, oh, well, it takes a lot of skill to use these things. No, it doesn't. It takes, if anything, it is anti-skill. Because you don't have to aim. You don't have to, like, move around. You don't have to do anything. Like, you turn up, you click a button, and it drops. If it wasn't so much of an issue, why are they adding in these, like, weird weather effects to try and reduce them? Which even then, it's a very silly way of balancing them, but, you know. Once again, sometimes we just have things where, you know, they decide to move things around like that. No idea why. Yeah, just raise them at the end of the day. Or, once again, increase the spawn costs. You know, go a bit nuts on that. Nobody's going to say no, are they? Let's get the pilot. Do you know how hard it is to turn on thermals and press spacebar? Well, depends on the premium player, I suppose. Imagine, like, having to do all that stuff. But yeah, you're right. It's very hard to use the lightning pod at, like, you know, 10,000 meters. Crazy. But yeah. We'll see what they decide to do. So then we have macaroni. Oh my. Just a dude zooming. Good day, Tech. Hope you're doing alright, man. Yeah, I'm doing good. Like, good start to the year. Pretty happy with it. We played through Boat Crew, which was super fun. And Arms Trade Tycoon Tanks, and we're going to do Call of Juarez Gunslinger. Or not Gunslinger, but Back for Blood. Should be nice. Looking forward to it, actually. It should be nice to go with. I'm not sure if this has been asked or not. What minor nation would you like to see as either a sub-tree or actual trees in the game? To be honest, any of them. Like, I don't really have I don't really have like a favorite of a vehicle set which I'd like to see, because pretty much every one that they add now is going to be a lot of copy paste stuff, right? So it's more about making certain tech trees more viable than it is with the actual nation being added at this point. So for me, the one that I have the most interest in that way is actually the Koreas. because Japan is one of those which definitely needs a bit of work, and would directly benefit from South Korea's stuff being added to it in the form of the Soviet stuff that it had access to, the American stuff it had access to, and also just the major stuff it has at the top of it. If not, the Japanese tech tree, at least in ground, will go exactly the same way as the Italian tech tree did so many moons ago, where it just has so many holes in it. They tried their best to fill the holes with a bunch of, whether they called them prototype vehicles or whether they called them whatever. And yeah, I suppose they did it, but did it really, make a massive difference to the tech trees? I mean, not really. It just meant that you played the same vehicles over and over again, which isn't really that fun. So, for me, I think in general, adding in the Koreas to China and Japan would be the way forward. Not really, don't really care nowadays about what we would class as the what would be the historical argument at this point, because I've just seen so many nations which have been hammered by the fact that they just haven't been given decent munitions, and it just sucks for them. It's no fun. It's not very nice, and it basically means that a lot of these nations are in just really poor states because of these decisions. So yeah, those would be the ones which I would look at. Don't really mind what gets added though. Like as I said, I'm not hugely in favor of like one or the other. That's the thing now. I feel like they've added a lot of the nations which have cool, interesting toys. So the other ones that they add, yeah, they'll have similar mechanics and similar stuff, and maybe some new vehicles. Like it would be funny to see something like Kenya or Nigeria in. Like I don't know how that would work, but it would at least be interesting to see. But yeah, I honestly don't know. I don't know what they would add, but whatever it is, I'm looking forward to it because that's something to always focus on. So we have a well with you, viability. I'm just transferring some files, so that's why we're not playing something. Hey Tech, and thanks for reminding me about the phasing debacle. I remembered it had something to do with immunity being balked, but I always thought it was glitched and people abusing the glitch. Shockingly, not really. It was just people abusing a new helpful mechanic. Yeah, I mean, yeah. Just put it like this: like if you go from immune to mune, or whatever, but you're still stuck inside something, what happens? By the way, the funniest thing I've encountered when it comes to magnetic tanks is two tanks being stuck on the point they started violently levitating and then going boom Michael Bay style at the end. Can't say I miss the phenomenon, but I do miss funny jank stuff. It was funny back in the day, I do agree. Before I forget, I hope you had a look at our suggestions in the predictions video you did like 2 weeks ago. The dumb predictions one gave me a good laugh for obvious reasons. Yeah, I do actually enjoy looking over that stuff quite a lot. Like, general comments from these things and stuff like that. I think overall it's one of my favorite things. The dumb prediction stuff is easily the best. Just because it's nice to have a laugh, Like I feel like over many years, people thought I took stuff super seriously because of the YouTube channel things and doing the streaming stuff and kind of doing a lot of the other things. I feel like has shown. No, I just like to piss about and chat about stuff. Those are the teams in arcade. You have the teams that crump and the battles that get crumped. True, you do get 2-3 decent players that can change the flow of the battle, but like rivers, they can't stop the torrent. Thus, if the rest of the team chooses to push from the camping spots, there's a chance. If not, you get zerged and the enemy, and ask yourself if continuing the match is worth it. Yeah, we saw that last time playing the Strela, man. It was kind of crazy. I don't think armor penetration stats has changed at all, Whitman. It's just how it is. but yeah, I think in general that that was definitely my experience in arcade. It is also kind of my experience in realistic too, but I suppose the battles are a little bit shorter, so it don't happen as often. But it is kind of nuts how quickly the tide changed in arcade. But mobility, I suppose, is key in that setup. So we have Erin O. Hey, I believe you used to play Enlisted. Have you played it again since the big updates? If so, what are your thoughts on the game now? No, I haven't. I wanted to, and then I realized that it would be kind of a waste of my time. Um, the reason why I stopped playing Enlisted is because I think they lost the focus of what Enlisted was supposed to be, because they did the criminal thing that a lot of people do, where they just keep adding stuff and thinking that's the way to go, and refining stuff while doing it, which is great. But the problem is, if you keep adding stuff to something which already is a bit all over the place, it just torches the thing, which is, a little bit rough. So, for example, I played Enlisted to play infantry because the whole point of the game was supposed to be these large infantry battles. You controlling a squad of players, or sorry, you controlling a squad of AI, the other people controlling squads of AIs, big mashes together of like these armed forces going at each other and, fighting on the battlefield, trying to set up spawn beacons, trying to fight around them, flamethrowers going everywhere, machine gunners machine gunning everywhere, like death everywhere, kills everywhere, all this stuff, right? It felt like the first game for a long time which really mastered that kind of idea of brutal warfare. Or, if you play like Warhammer games, I suppose like they did that, and it was really fun. I had a great time, and it didn't matter what I was using, whether it was like PPDs, Mosins, Kar 98s, Skavers. Like I felt like each gun had its like place, even though it didn't always fit the meta. And then also at the start in the Battle of Moscow, they had stuff like the T60. They had stuff like the T26, and these things were manageable. Like they weren't too bad. Explosive packs dealt with them very, very well, and all of this stuff went really good, right? Like it was okay. And then they went, oh, time to add more stuff. Okay, so firstly they started adding, firstly they started adding a bunch of different stuff, which was like new weapons, and new this and new that. And overall, like, yeah, it increased the power level, but it wasn't a crazy amount. We're not talking like, we're not talking insane stuff. But then they went, hey, wouldn't it be really cool to add a Tiger tank? People really like the Tiger tank. Oh, and also at the same time, how about the J188, which was already there, by the way, or the A20, or, the Jumbo? How about we add these things? Because people like them, right? And that's really fun. And then I was sat there going, okay, well, I'm not really playing an infantry game anymore. I'm playing, I'm getting annihilated by ground vehicles game, or air vehicles game, while also having to like do a bunch of other things to try and get him killed, or sort him out. So I'm sat there in that scenario trying to, deal with all of these things going on with a sensory overload all the time, and then they added the Battle of Stalingrad, which was just a straight up pay to win campaign. And then I saw a lot of people defending it, saying that it was fine, and that companies need to make money because I don't even know why. Because they felt like they needed to suck off to whoever was making the thing. I don't even like, and then they just kept adding power. They just kept adding power over and over and over again. More power here, more power there, and just made it an absolute mess. And the game became unrecognizable compared to what it was previously. Even though they'd fixed so many different things in it, They'd improved the movement so much. Their gunplay was great. All of these things. They basically made it a vehicle farming, an infantry farming simulator. So it just became whoever got into the vehicles farmed everybody else. And people started leaving. If they didn't get in the vehicles that they wanted, they just left the battle. And since there's no punishment for people leaving battles, people would just leave battles until they got to where they wanted to play. And what ended up happening was, after like a minute in the battle, like you had unequal teams, because a bunch of people realized, oh well, we're not going to win this battle, or oh, it's going to be tough. I'd rather have a battle that isn't that tough. And then that turned into, oh well, if I don't want to play this campaign because it's a little bit tougher than this other one, and I can just play that one, so let's just do that. So that happened, and then each campaign just became, one-sided. Every single one became just one-sided, or just nobody playing it, because why would you? And yeah, that basically what happened by the end of when I stopped playing. So it's either, okay, you play these campaigns on these sides and win, and you basically just face AI, or you play on the other side and you get your head smashed in. Now, I'm not a huge fan of like either 100% one way or 100% the other way. I kind of like this idea of a bit of, to and fro, and Enlisted, that disappeared from Enlisted. Now, with the changes that they made, that should have brought some of it back, and hopefully they did. And while they were announcing those changes, they also announced the fact that they were bringing in the IS-2 1944 and the Tiger II-H. And I went, they haven't learned anything. And now I saw that they've announced, okay, they're going to add the M26 Pershing now. And they're going to add the Ho-Ri production, or Ho-Ri prototype. And I just realized this is not the game that I wanted to play. What I wanted to play was an infantry-based game, which was based around, different objectives, based around, fighting for areas with just guns, simple grenades, and maybe, just a little bit of skill. I thought the engineer class was really well built. I thought each piece of the puzzle had its own kind of unique, interesting thing to do with it. But why does it matter when I spawn and just get blown up by a tank? And if I don't have the specific piece of equipment that I need to destroy it, which doesn't work half the time, then I just die to it over and over and over again. And because everybody has already left the battle, because they also can't deal with it, like, what do we do? What's the answer? And the answer is to not play it. Because I stopped playing Enlisted, I was able to have so many more interesting experiences in other games. It got to a point in Enlisted where I was turning up to just do the events and also the dailies. And it was going really well. Like, it was super easy, kind of relaxing. And the only thing is, every once in a while, you would get dailies which you just knew you couldn't do because you would just get hammered and it wasn't very fun. So, for me, I was like, okay, how about I just don't play this because it's in a pretty rough position, and how about I go play other things? And that's what I did. And at some point, I'll go back to Enlisted, and we'll see how it goes, because I did invest a lot of time into it, I did invest money into it, and I did invest, at the same time, a lot of, basically brain power. But what I found, not just from the game itself, but also from a lot of the community from that game, I found a lot of vitriol, a lot of aggression, and just a lot of crap. Which basically meant that making content around the game the way that I do is pretty much impossible as well to even have fun with. So, yeah, I mean, I think early on I bought some of the pre-order packs in Enlisted. I definitely bought something. But yeah, so basically with Enlisted, that's like my general thoughts of it. Hey, Notorical, nice to see you. You don't have to apologize. And yeah, it's a game which got crucified by I want, give, and people turn around and going, okay, sure, here you go. Here's all the assets we already have. Let's chuck them in. Like, I'll just play War Thunder and get a much better experience and a much more balanced experience. And because I stopped playing Enlisted last year, I was able to play 50 new games and gain some of my favorite experiences of the previous year. You know, I was able to play Bramble. I was able to play Zombie Army Trilogy with the guys, which is something which, you know, which, you know, was something we had on the back burner for ages. I was able to play Killing Floor. I was able to play the one that I mentioned today, Steamworks World Build, Stronghold 2. Like, I was able to play so many different games last year and just have a fantastic time. I played 53 games last year. Like, here, let's see. Let's see. Yeah, I played 52 games last year. 52. On Steam. So that's not even then. Played Warhammer 3. Metro Exodus we completed. You know? Land of the Vikings. Subnautica Below Zero. Like, all of these games. And if I just sat and stuck playing Enlisted, it just wouldn't work. Dawn of War 2 with Freeman. We played the Wolfenstein games. We played all of them. Gates of Hell, Little Nightmares 1 and 2, Outlast 2, Life is Strange, you know, Resident Evil 6. Doom Eternal we did. We even tried Project Wingman, TikTok, Back for Blood, In Sound Mind, Sea of Thieves we played. We Were Here, all the We Were Here games, Superbugs Awaken, Metro Exodus, you know? The Wandering Village, Half-Life 1, Half-Life 2, Darkest Tales, which was fantastic. Metal Gear Rising Revengeance we played, you know? Tank Mechanic Simulator, of course. Space Tale, you remember Space Tale? That was pretty fun. Metal Hellsinger was incredibly fun. Sniper Elite, Halo Wars we played, Definitive Edition. Carry On, you know, Dark Tide, Shooters, Blood and Teeth, The Past Within, the Master Chief Collection, The Shore. You remember that one? That was pretty fun. And then also, like, you know, Ace Combat Arena, Shadow of War, Bullet Runner, I don't even remember. Played Uno, Just Cause 4, Kane's Wrath 3, like all of these things. All of these things. Or I could have sat there and get my head blown off and Enlisted over and over and over again. I know what the answer for me was. I was really looking forward to the change when it was first announced, but now I kind of miss how easy it is to pick and choose what location era of World War II I played in. Well, that's the thing. For me, I didn't have that choice, because what would happen is I would just get my head blown off over and over again. Like, here, I'll show you, because this is the thing about streaming a game compared to just playing it standardly. If you stream the game, then what happens is you get targeted. And in Enlisted, because it was a new FPS, with not exactly the biggest player base, it was very easy to target people. So what ended up is I would have 1 or 2 good games, and then I would just get hammered by 8 people at the same time. And they would be all using the best equipment with the best soldiers. Which is why at the start of the stream, you would have like 2 easy matches to get into it, and then after that, it was a mess. Which is why I only ended up playing it like 1 or 2 or 3 times, and then moving on to something else. Because it's just not fun to like play like that. And it was also something that was encouraged by other CCs to do, which basically meant that, you know, you sat in a corner going, why the hell am I doing this? You know. I did get a kill with the Puma MG. Like, I got a kill the JU-88. Yeah, I requested stuff for Enlisted through the program Sneaky. So yeah, I did do that on a lot of things. But I hadn't requested anything in like a year and a half. It was a lot of the early stuff, like a lot of the early squads, and also having enough enlisted gold to get premium. But yeah, basically I gave up on requesting stuff, not because like I don't think they ever said no when it came to anything in Enlisted, because they were trying to get people to obviously promote it as much as possible. But at the same time, as I said, it became a point of just, why am I doing this, you know? Which is why it's good to have kind of like the relationship like I have with the whole thing, because I can literally just like flick a switch and be like, all right, bye. Have a good time. It was kind of cursed by having all the War Thunder vehicle assets. I mean, yeah, kind of. That's one way of putting it. It was cursed. It was cursed by decisions made. Is more the way I would put it. Like, because even though, once again, just because you can doesn't mean that you should, right? And it was somebody's decision to do it. And also at the same time, a lot of the guys who seem to have been working on that project were moved on to other projects. So I will make sure to not touch any of those projects either, because they screwed up a lot of the decisions. And there was also a lot of like background stuff, which, you know, we've talked about a little bit, but at the same time, not a ton. I lost a lot of respect for certain people with how many of the different things were dealt with. I was lied to by a bunch of Gaijin employees about certain things, which just made me super sad, and unfortunately kind of showed to me that there was a lot of, well, basically just no respect when it came to what I did or what I was dealing with when it came to certain things and what was going on at the time. It sucked, and hopefully it doesn't happen again. Also, I really enjoy your overly exaggerated, sarcastic forum post readings. Have a good day. I will do. You know, and yeah, they're fun. I enjoy doing them. They're a good time, those. I think it's nice to do stuff like that every once in a while. You know, just to have a bit of fun and read some ridiculous things. How did that kill that guy? Give up. I'm Gaijin released some sort of World of Warships kind of game recently. Age of Water. And no, it's not World of Warships. It's a naval MMO. We actually played it more recently. It's pretty fun. Like, basically, you can completely customize your ship. You have, like, a story that you follow. And then, you know, you go into the standard MMO mechanics. Very true, Papa Stalin. Very sad. Yeah, that post was funny. I wish, oh, shit. I wish we could get, if there was an archive of that one dude who was straight up just, yeah, I cheated, so what, bro? This is why I did it, you know. This is why, you know, this is why all this stuff happened. Alright, let's get this engine fixed. I will have a good day, though. But, yeah, if Enlisted gets to a point where it actually is a bit more interesting or fun, or if I go to, like, you know, the social medias or stuff like that, then and there's actually a little bit more discussion about things instead of the same things over and over again, then I'll probably check it out. But yeah, simple as. It's not really modern warships. It's imagine if you took like coastal. I mean, well, we played it, so I don't know if it was cut, but we did play it, so you can have a look there. But basically, imagine if you took War Thunder Coastal and made it so you could completely customize your ships when it comes to power, when it comes to guns, when it comes to armor, and it was set in like a cartoony world where, you know, kind of like a Borderlands-esque world where people are just weird and want to do weird stuff with you, and then you have like a crew for your ship, and then you're able to like move around with it and do different stuff. It was super enjoyable, actually, thinking about it. There was pirate ships and, You know, there was all these different things, a lot of raiders around the place. Like, there was a ton of stuff. Like, it was pretty nice. So then we have SK Gunslinger. Wondering your thoughts on the Page of History expansion. Ooh. Let's go this way, get a crew back. For people that have the lower BR spaded, they would have a higher BR option, since they would at least one full set to cover the year. They could add a second set that runs on top of the first, so in any period there would always be a higher or lower option. With the number of conflicts World War II to nearly present, first flights, etc., they should be able to find a reason to create more pages. So basically, for every pages of history, there will be two options. There will be two options to go for instead of one, and you'd only have to complete one of them. I mean, yeah. How much was Age of Water? It's a free-to-play, if I remember. I think it's in beta testing right now. But yeah, I'd be fine with that. Like, you know, for me, one of the things I would like to see, yeah, it's actually on Steam. But it's not available yet. So there you go. That's what it is. It did some beta testing previously. But yeah, I would be fine with that kind of expansion, because a lot of the time, like as we've talked about, it kind of sucks doing the same vehicles over and over again. A lot of stuff over the period of time, like over, what would you class it as? Over the last years has been very World War II focused, and they have expanded into different conflicts, which is good. But it also means there's a bunch of vehicles that just never get touched because they weren't involved in conflicts. So what they could do is they could do the standard ones they've been doing, so the operation stuff, and then maybe, as you said, like they have like a bonus one. Doesn't have to give like a decal or anything like that. It could just be you could do this one either. And it's like, hey, so the prototype of this vehicle was worked on in this month, and this is when it had its first drive. And it could just be a random vehicle, kind of like how they did. You remember like the premium vehicles where they did like the T-34 and then a few other things. Like they could easily just do stuff like that. Like I think that would be fine. So you have two options. Like you can either pick one or pick the other. Like yeah, sounds great to me. Like why not? I don't see why that would be a bad thing. Right, let's do that. The main thing I would want for the pages of history is a reason to kind of complete all of them. And I know that sounds really odd, because of course the reason is to get the profile pics, but maybe they could have like a collection. So like if you get all the profile pics for a year, you get a special profile pic, you know, just something like that. Always trying to add on to what already exists. Thank you for the subscription, Daddle. Thank you for continuing to support the channel. It's very much appreciated. Thank you very much, man. Nice to see you as always. Hopefully you're doing well. You got the weekend at home? Good. Hopefully all of your stuff's going well, man. It's freezing over here, so that's pretty much the news. Last beta for Age of War was during the summer. The game's supposed to come out Q1 this year. Yeah, it's supposed to be out pretty soon. And yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Hopefully it's good. Should be nice to see. Alright, let's just do this real quick. There we go. But yeah, I'll be fine with stuff like that. More options to complete these things, especially since, as we said, there's a ton of vehicles in the game that'll never be in the page of history, because they're just like random prototypes. And now that we're getting more and more of them, like let's get it done. They could even do like fake operations or, you know, kind of military exercises. Like imagine if they did like Hokkaido or something like that. That could work pretty well. Like why not? Minimum last week was -9. At the moment it's about 1 or 2. Right now it's -14 for me, so it hit us like 2 days ago. It's been absolutely nuts. So then we have Not Sean. Loaded question. Whoa. What? Uh-oh, totally crazy. Sorry, I've had that song stuck in my head for like 2 months. When mixed propulsion aircraft come to the game, also more munitions should be added again. Weapons like the SM-2 Bat or petrol missiles on a Neptune, definitely the Kingfisher C for aircraft and ships. Don't we already have mixed propulsion aircraft? Like we have we have turboprops, right? Aren't they like mixed propulsion? Or am I just an idiot? I might be an idiot. I'm pretty sure we have some somewhere. We definitely have something around. But yeah, I mean, I'd be fine with like more weapon systems as long as they don't break the game. I think the way that they added the anti-ship missile or missile for Japan was the way to do it. So you actually have a unique event vehicle which has access to that mechanic and then nothing else. And then you bring it back every so often. So that basically means that the mechanic is limited and also, something to kind of go for. So if they're going to add something like the bat, that's what I would do personally. I think that would be better to do like that. Instead of, the way that it was done previously. Well, I mean, they did it with the QM506, but that's going to be expanded, right? But yeah, I'd be fine with stuff like that. I feel like we have mixed propulsion stuff in the game. Or at least vehicles which are supposed to be. But I might be wrong. Like, that's just... Because my brain keeps going to, like, the vehicles that have jet engines, then they also have rocket boosters. But I don't know if that's classed as mixed propulsion. Ooh. Goes machine gun. Like the P2V, the P4M, the Fireball, the Sky Pirate, which were like the SP2Cs or the BT1 with a jet in the back. I mean, sure. Like, that would be something that they could add. I just wonder how you'd balance stuff like that. Like what BR you put it at. But yeah, some of that could be figured out. The main thing is all of those could be really fun event vehicles, right? Like at the end of the day. You could have a bunch of them in random events during the year and people could have a great time with them. There we go. It means jets and prop engines at the same time. Yeah, I think so too, yeah. But yeah, why not? A mixed powered aircraft is an aircraft which is powered by one or more jet engines plus one or more piston, turboprop, or rocket engines. So, would the Shackleton be a mixed propulsion? It doesn't matter. Like, I understand what's being said. But yeah, it's, I feel like they would be perfect event vehicles, basically. I can't pen stuff. But yeah. Yeah, A2D, yeah. Like that. Well, that's a contra prop, turbo prop, innit? Goddamn, Hunter. That's crazy. I will never miss the absolute freezing cold of places like Calgary, man. I'm very happy I'm in warmer climates, even if it is -10 right now. Then we have Gulag Kulak. Would War Thunder be a better experience if battle trophies sometimes awarded boosters? They do, don't they? At the end of a battle, you can get a trophy and it has boosters in it. Same with like the pages of history and the Warbond stuff. Alright. So that already is there. Unless you mean like one specific thing. I mean, more boosters are always nice. The whole point of boosters is to get people to play more of the game. The only issue I have with boosters is if it becomes right. So it's kind of like if you increase the price of something and then put it on sale to be the previous price, then I need to find like a name for this. But the name I always think of is DHS or DHL. So there was a company I need to start writing all these down, but there was a company in England, a furniture company, and they just always had everything on sale all the time. And they would run these wonderful adverts in like summer and winter, and they'll be like, hey, it's our autumn sale. Yeah, DFS. Oh, hey, it's our winter sale. Oh, hey, guess what? It's our spring sale. And they just always had everything on offer. So, like, their actual true price, you never paid their true price. So their actual true price was the offer price, right? So, and I know there's been some companies that have been done for that in the past. Companies that actually did, kind of take advantage of that stuff. But yeah, it's one of those things that's kind of funny. So for me, if you make it so the idea is you are always using boosters, or you're supposed to be always using boosters, then the new level of grind is higher than the previous one, and therefore the people who don't use those are going to have problems. And that, to me, isn't very fun, if I'm honest with you. I think that would be kind of sad. Mate, what? There you go. So as long as that is something that's at least thought about or, done, I wouldn't really... More boosters for everybody, people have talked about the idea of, like, Twitch drops having boosters or being able to get them by just, maybe commenting on things, stuff like that. Like, yeah. As long, as I said, as it doesn't become the standard, I don't really have too many issues. So then we have Jade Fox. Hey Tech, apologies for last week's comment. I meant to get your opinion on it, but it phased it as a statement. Anyways, I was wondering about these two things. Sadly, they're German specific, because no one else tried this in the field in World War II. It's all good. Yeah, the best way to get me to, like, an opinion on something is to just be as direct as possible, right? Because sometimes I'll pick apart statements based on, what I see from it. Other times, sometimes I just disregard stuff because of how my brain works. So yeah, being as direct as possible is the way forward. One would be a half track where the primary weapon... Well, you don't have to apologize for it. Like, it's my issue, not yours. One would be a half track where the primary weapon was a deployable Goliath tracked mine, perhaps as a way to test deployable ground UVs. The other is the FA-223, which is a German gyrocopter armed with a single MG-15 and two 250s. The later should either be a squadron or premium vehicle, as making an event vehicle would be too much. What are your thoughts? I mean, the Goliath is one of those things that was captured by the Allies and tested, so if you really wanted to be goofy about it, you could pretty much give it to every nation apart from Sweden. So that's one of the fun things about, War Thunder. It's kind of an interesting thing, the Goliath. I don't really like the idea of it in realistic, because it's just one of those things that adds another layer of just kind of ridiculousness to the game. I think it would actually be fine in arcade as kind of a kill streak idea, but from a realism point of view, the way that it was used in real life and also the way that its mechanic would work, it wouldn't really fit. So for me, stick it in arcade, let people have a bit of fun with it, and you could do it at specific BRs if you wanted to, but yeah, it doesn't really matter. Good evening, finest British tea. Nice to see you. Nice to see you too, War Thunder. Hopefully you're doing all right. So yeah, you could do stuff like that. There's a Swedish Armed Forces Day one. The major thing for me is that you want to try and give it to other nations. Parity is one of those things that is always in my head. It's always at the forefront of my head, and the reason for that is there's just been too many times where certain nations have dominated others because of the lack of parity in the game, meaning that certain nations have access to certain mechanics and other nations don't. So if you start giving only a singular nation these mechanics, then it becomes a problem, right? So I'm hoping that that isn't the case, but it would probably lead to that. I don't know how useful something like that would be. I've talked about this idea in the past. I've always liked the idea, of a set of vehicles that aren't designed for battles. And I know that sounds stupid, but hear me out. Imagine if you have these vehicles which are designed in a way so when you play them, when you grind for them, kind of like First World War tanks, you can have them as like hangar decorations, or you can take them into custom battles. I think that would be so much more interesting than, you know, having these weird vehicles that are going to like alter lineups. You know, maybe you can grind a supply truck. Maybe you can make it a squadron vehicle, but you can't bring it into battles. Maybe it's just basically a large decoration, but you can drive it around in your hangar. Imagine if you have a scenario where you can customize your hangar and you have all of these vehicles that don't really fit in the game but fit, you know, as decorations in the hangar, which we already have a bunch of them, by the way, because they are decorations. Make them drivable. And what if you have a situation where you can click on them and then you can drive them around your hangar? You could do that with helis. You could do that with naval vehicles. Like, maybe you could get a ferry or something. You know, like, all of these things could work. And also, it gives people something to grind towards, but it also doesn't affect the balance of the game by adding stuff in that certain people can use and others can't. That's how I would add stuff like that. Yeah, exactly, Daddle. Yeah. Just make it an interactive experience. Yeah, make the hangar a museum. Like, honestly. So many games have done that very successfully. One thing that War Thunder is struggling with at the moment, even though it's been around for such a long time, is actually having what would be classed as like your statistics in a easily digestible thing to go, hey, this is what I've done. You know, this is what I've achieved. This is what I've been able to do. So many other games do it very well, and there's no reason why War Thunder couldn't, you know? It would be a very fun time, you know? That's good, H&R. Hopefully you continue to enjoy them. Stuff like that's very fun. Just make sure you have full lineups, you know? You'll have a much better experience with that. But yeah, that would be a way that you can add in these things and also make it much more fun for individuals in the game too. You wouldn't have to set it up in a way so people would be limited in terms of what they could play and also what they play with and against. Like, I don't really feel like War Thunder should become like a freak show where everybody is just allowed in, because then that actually takes away from what the actual game is, you know, the competitive part. And even though I don't favor the competitive part too much, like the higher end stuff, you do need the game to actually have some competition to it instead of just one side blows out the other. Otherwise what happens is, you know, what we talked about with Enlisted, right? Where literally you just can't have a balanced experience and it isn't very fun. So yeah. Right now I'm just doing my daily tasks, so we're just going around the place. So we have Andrew Fitzsimmons. TEC. What can be done to help Britain 83 and 87 ground? Trying to spade all these awful vehicles has been an overall miserable experience. I'd not recommend playing any of these vehicles outside of the Warrior and 76mm Roycat. My opinion, 8090 needs major BRD compression. Let's say, well, first of all, they did that twice last year already. Twice. So let's say they do it again. Does it make any difference? No, because there's nothing around that area that those vehicles fit in with. The chieftains don't fit the meta. They didn't really fit in real life either. So, yeah, the major problems is you have a bunch of vehicles that don't really work and haven't really worked for their eternity and have had major issues as you go along. The basic way of fixing something like that is with BR changes, but even then, you know, you're not going to have a great time with it. The major thing is you need to actually fix the supportive elements. You have to You have to fix the CAS elements that exist. You have to fix all of these different elements that sit there and don't really do anything, which I think is, one of the hardest things that's around the place. So yeah, that's what I would do. I think in general, it's not an easy conversation though. It's quite hard to go through, and it's one of those where you just have to kind of get through the promised land. A bunch of different nations have very tough BR brackets, and that one is that. The SB2C is a bomber, but it's more of a fighter with bomber capabilities. So we have Gulag again. Here's an idea. We can force Gaijin to fix BR compression by refusing to play full up tiers. It's easy to determine the BR of the match before spawning in base on the spawn costs of your vehicles. If it's a full up tier, just quit the match. Play another nation during the crew log period. I did this for a while and the matches I played were a lot more fair. I mean, sure, you could do that. It's kind of hard to get hundreds of thousands of players to do that though. But, I believe in you. We've talked about how the balance of the games work, We've talked about the different game modes. We've talked about how this thing, goes around. It's just how it is. I don't know how else to put it. We went into it in length, I think, We went into it in length in the last tech talk. The only thing I suppose to add on top of it in this scenario is, well, let's say they reduce it to 0.7. Now, do you complain about it being a 0.7, and then do you want it at 0.3? And then from there, how do you deal with the balance of the vehicles and all these other questions, yada yada yada. I don't know when's the end. I think a cool thing to do would be to have a look at previous years and where vehicles used to sit in BR and what decompression has actually happened over that period of time. Because I can think of like 4 or 5 separate sets of decompression that have happened in all of the different game modes over those periods. In Naval, we had 3 sets of decompression that I can remember over the last 2 years. In air, you've had 4 or 5. In ground, you've had 3 or 4. Like, it's pretty nuts. In helicopters, you've had 2 or 3. So yeah, I don't know how much people want. Like, you had a massive rebalance of stabilization and different kind of mechanics. What would be the ideal scenario, when do you go, okay, this is okay? Like I think that's always been the question that I've had. Because an end goal for me is super important when trying to focus on, what I want out of something. If I don't have an end goal for something, what happens instead is it just becomes a rolling mill. And as you go along, even if you actually get what you want during that time, you don't see it because okay, how do I put this? So let's say this is like a line and you're here and your goal is here, but it's a continuous goal. So what you do is this. So now you're here and now your goal is still here. So as you move along the line, even though things are getting better, your distance from your goal stays the same. So what happens in your mind is you feel like you haven't attained anything or nothing has changed because you are still trying to focus on that goal going forward. This is why it's super important sometimes at different parts of the year to kind of like look back and think about what has happened over the previous set of time. Like, what have I achieved? What have I done? What have I set up? Because if you don't do that, you'll just be stuck in that idea. Whereas if you have a defined goal, which let's say is in the center, and you start here, once you hit it, you know you've hit it, and then you can set new goals. But with conversations like BR decompression, I feel like it's a continuous thing. So like whenever it's brought up or whenever it's thought about, I just think about, the last year where they had a bunch of different BR changes, like I think 4 or 5 sets. Same with the previous year, same with the previous year. And then when you think about that over 10 years, that's like 40 to 50 different sets of BR changes. Where, we used to be at like 8.0 BR, now we're at 12.3, 12.7, whatever it is, right? So how in your head do you look at that and still are stuck in the same area, the same conversation, the same discussion, the same aggression, the same debate, right? And I don't know. I got no idea. No idea. So we have Pig Stick. I saw someone in Twitch chat saying something about the Bob Semple tank at the end of the video. I keep forgetting to ask this. Did the Bob Semple tank ever add variants with better guns? If so, ignore the rest. People that won the Bob Semple, I got the tank for you. It's already called the M2A2. Boom, solved the issue. The funny thing about the Bob Semple is it would actually have worse. It would have worse guns than the M2A2. There was a proposed variant of the Bob Semple where it would have something that was similar to the M2 tank's turret. So it would have a 37mm. But as I've said, this was proposed, it was never actually built. Now, Gaijin has added a bunch of things in the past which were proposed. But they usually do it for balance reasons. But I feel like in this scenario, they'd probably add it in because it was, funny. Because once again, it's one of those vehicles that has been talked about and thought about and pushed around. So there's no reason why they couldn't add something like that in. I think, yeah. So that's pretty much it. If they added the Bob Semple in what it was historically, it would be worthless. Once again, it would be one of those cool hangar decorations, right? But that's really about it. So we have Jan Marcomazo. Hi Tech, hope you're doing well. Yeah, I'm doing alright. Life is good, just a bit hungry right now. Let's go this way. About the War Thunder is Dying crowd, who often haven't played the game in years. I'm a big fan of Formula One, and it's the same there. Yeah. Some people stopped watching years ago, but can't shut up about F1. F1 is dying and no one watches it, even though there are more fans than ever before. The parallel to War Thunder writes itself. I wish I understood why people are like this. If I don't like something, I just drop it. I'll tell you exactly why, which is it's something I found out a few years ago. There's a content creator. She's a South African esports host, which I know sounds really weird, but I keep up with a lot of random stuff. But basically, she does a podcast called Tech Girl Talks, and I can't remember her damn name. See, I'll find it right now. But yeah, she's an esports host. She has some interesting opinions on certain things. But yeah. Her YouTube channel is TechCurlZA, but that's not who she is. I can't remember what her name is. But yeah, she's a South African esports host. Oh, Sam Wright. There you go. Sam Wright is her name. She did a podcast, which was, or she continues to do a podcast with different people. The problem is, it's one of those things. I'll actually put a link in the description. Pretty much nobody watches it, and it's actually really insightful if you want to learn about how esports works, or if you want to learn how any of that stuff works. Because she doesn't just have the people on who are just like the players. She actually has a bunch of the production people and people behind the scenes, like even like sponsorship people and how all this works. One of the people she had on was a YouTuber who she'd met, a British YouTuber who is in a relationship with Ali A. if you know who Ali A is. I can't remember what her name is. But yeah. Basically, she talks in that podcast about all of these different things, about how you have people who will watch something from like 5 years ago and then they will like come back and watch it again and they'll go, wow, this is crap. And it's one or two things, right? Or one of many things. But the main stuff, if you look at it, number one, that person may have changed. So their things that they like may have changed. People know that the types of food that you like even changes while you get older. Your interests change as you go along. So their interests may have just changed. So the content they liked before, they don't like anymore. Number two, the content creator might have changed. Like, you know, how they produce content. My content is very different now compared to what it was like 5 years ago because I have more like time now or I'm more efficient. You know, the basics is still the same. Like I'm still the same person, but now I have 5 years of experience. So the way that I like look at stuff or, you know, the things that I've read or stuff has changed how my head works. Editing may have changed. You know, the things that, you know, feed into each other may have changed. So the content may have changed. So what the person liked 5 years ago may be the same as today, but the content's completely different. And what happens every time that this goes on, because this has happened to me a lot, and I see it happening in sports, I see it happening with everything. The individual blames the other thing. They never look at themselves and go, oh, maybe I just don't like this anymore. That's fine. I'll go find something I do like. What they do is they go, why has the thing that I really liked before completely changed? Why did they do this to me? Why did they take away this thing from me? Why did you do that? And it's like, well, they didn't actually. They didn't at all. You changed. You know, and it's hard for people to get that, right? It's really, really hard to, it's really, really hard to try and get people to understand. Just think about like what you were like 5 years ago, right? For me, like I was pretty similar to what I am today, but that's because I was pretty sure of myself 5 years ago and still am. Right? So I've kind of gone down that trajectory. I've had more life experiences. I'm way opened up to more things, but at the same time, I'm pretty much the same. But if I go 5 years before that, completely different person. Right? Just completely different. And then, like, yeah, not even thinking about like teenage years or anything like that. Just once again, just completely different person. And a lot of people turn up when they're teenagers. When they start getting, you know, introduced to certain things, whether it be sports or whether it be like, you know, once again, content creation or whatever it is. And 5 years down the line, maybe they've gone to university. Maybe they've got a full-time job. Maybe they have kids. You know, maybe they have different interests. Maybe they are just involved in a bunch of different stuff now. And that's all great and that's all awesome. But it has to be understood that is not, you know, that is something that affects you and not everything else around. So if that is something that happens, you have to realize that. And a lot of people don't. And it leads to very negative scenarios where they look back and they're sad. But they shouldn't be sad. They should realize that they just have to look for other things to make them, you know, feel good. Sometimes it's easier to ask questions about what could be fixed, but as you say, we should focus more on having fun. So here's something I really love about War Thunder. It's incredible depth. Yeah, it's nuts, the depth in War Thunder. And also the fact that if you get annoyed at one part, you can just go play something else. You can't do that in a lot of games. Like, you're kind of stuck with what you got. Like, think about, like, you know, League of Legends. Okay, you can play, like, the standard mode in ranked or unranked, or you can play, like, a gimmick mode that no one plays. Even after thousands of matches in my favorite vehicle, the Ag Tiger, I still find learning little things about it, tips and tricks to use better. How's amazing at that? Time for thousands of vehicles too. Yeah. What would you single out for yourself instead? Cheers, have a good one. For me, it honestly is the just amount of different stuff that's in the game. Like the fact that I can in it. So there's 2,000 vehicles in War Thunder, or sorry, more than 2,000 vehicles in War Thunder. So if every day, even without thinking about what's going to be added in the future, that is what, 5 years? So I could play a different vehicle every day for at least 5 years. And I still wouldn't have played everything in War Thunder. Nuts. Absolutely nuts. When you put it like that. And that's not including the different game modes. So you can times that by 2 or maybe 4, depending on the stuff. And then from there, you know, you have the events, you have all this, just the sheer amount of stuff, meaning that you just never, there's always something to focus on, even while doing this like tech talk, right? Even though we're doing the tech talk, we did the pages of history, we did the decal, now I'm doing my dailies, like that's 3 sets of things that I just can just turn off my brain and then just go do and enjoy. Like, that's the thing that's nice, you know? And not a ton of games give me that. A ton of games now are designed that you play it for like, you know, maybe an hour a day or 2 hours a day because that's the average time that people have available. But for me, having this great expanse is actually something I see as a challenge instead of overwhelming. And I think that's probably a big thing that, you know, separates me from what I've seen compared to a lot of people. I see a lot of people get overwhelmed by the amount of stuff that's ahead of them. For me, it's like, oh, that's cool. I'll never get bored, you know? It's like a never-ending cycle. And, you know, I have the opportunity, if I ever want to, just to kind of step away and be like, all right, you know, thanks for the circus. I'll see you in a bit. I don't feel like any tie to these things. And I think that's pretty cool. Like, if I miss a day, I miss a day. Like, it's not a huge thing in that regard. I think if I miss a day of content stuff, I feel bad because I feel like I let people down, but in War Thunder individually, don't really mean too much. And I think that's good. It's not like, you know, something that I have to heavily rely on or anything. That's the main thing for me. But yeah, it's the psychology of the human being when it comes to what they like and what they don't like is impressive. For me, as a simple abide or simple idea, when I was younger, I really disliked tomatoes. You know, not just like raw tomatoes, but like tomato soup, you know, and just anything tomatoes. For some reason, the taste was really rough. I still struggle with, I can't do Bloody Marys, you know, still. Like that really tastes disgusting to me. But I like tomato sauces now. I like just, you know, raw tomatoes in a salad. I like tomato soup. It's crazy. I think they did sneaky, in one of their, when they were talking about it early on, I think they did. So yeah, the fact that my taste buds have just completely changed for no apparent reason over the years, because of a bunch of different factors, shows exactly the same thing with content stuff, you know? There's so many different things to look at. It is just, it can be very overwhelming for people. But I really hope it shouldn't be. And once that's kind of understood that, you know, it's okay if you don't like something, that will be great. But I don't think that'll ever happen. I think we'll always have to have these constant conversations about, oh, well, back in my day it was better. It just wasn't. Especially when you look at War Thunder, you know, or many other things. Or maybe it's just because you prefer other things now. And that's okay. You know, that's alright. Simple as. So then we have Blasted Hawk. Hello Tech, I've returned. I have 2 things this time. Da-da-da. Number 1. I've been playing the A10 early. Yes, I know, Wallet Warrior. That's all good. And I've noticed that the TV-guided weapons just don't lock onto tanks, so basically it's just useless, and this is the same for the AGM-65s. What's up with that? What? I'm pretty sure they do lock onto tanks, don't they? Well, they should do. Oh, well done, Slavic. Hopefully you're doing alright. I thought that they do lock. Well, I suppose it depends on which ones they are, but they either lock onto tanks or the ground. But I'm pretty sure they're the early ones, so they lock onto tanks. The major issue is if you have any visibility issues with it, then it doesn't lock. So, but they should do. Might be bugged. Who knows? Like, but yeah, it should work. At the end of the day. Ooh, sorry, just had to stretch. But I don't know. Maybe something's going on that I don't know about. 2. I of course am a lover of history, and I've wanted the SATS M10, but I don't want to dump more of my money to the snail. How would I get my hands on it? Also, I'm a console player, so no market. Sad. Are they in the SL boxes when they turn up? With the carrots and the sticks? That's the only thing I can think of. Like, I do have a bunch of carrots. I should probably use them. There you go. We'll do 12. Why not? While we're sat here. But, yeah, I think maybe in the snowman they are them, but yeah, I don't know how else to set it up. Can I play with you, or is this an only player live? You can queue up at the same time as me if you want. So yeah, I think in general that would be probably the way to do it. I don't know how else you'd be able to get it. Just because at the end of the day, it's one of those things where they want it to have like artificial rarity, right? Freeman's been streaming. Like, he's definitely been around. Hey, Splendor Yum Yum, nice to see you. Hopefully you're doing good today. Hopefully life's okay. And yeah, everything's good. We're just doing the tech talk, so. But yeah, I honestly, I hope in the future they set up like a system where they do, actually do stuff like that. Like they do bring back old vehicles. We've talked about it a bunch. I think at this time it's time to do it, right? Like it's one of those things that's been sat around for ages, and you know, a lot of players have been affected by it where they've just started the game too late and they just haven't been able to get access to this stuff. So I think it would be good to do that, but yeah, we're hopefully it'll happen, but right now there doesn't seem to be anything from there. There we go. So then we have Matthew Weeks. You're awesome, dude, and awesome videos. Be safe out there. I'll be fine. Life would be dream as you be do 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 do. Yeah, I'm alright. Like life is fine. I'm kicking and screaming as we go around, so you don't have to worry. I will not die. I've decided that this is the year of not death. So we will focus on not deathing, and hopefully it goes well. And if we end up doing the do death, then it will be very unfortunate. But we'll be good. Don't worry. I am very committed to being alive. Is the way to put it. So we have C76 Caravan. Shouldn't you only pay taxes on your YouTube revenue in Canada? Don't Canada and the US have a double taxation agreement to avoid double taxation for these cases? I'm not going into how taxes work between Canada and America right now, because how I have it set up is very different to many, because I don't just have this income, I have a bunch of other stuff going on too in the background. But yeah, it's always fun looking at tax laws between different places. Always enjoyable at the end of the day. how it works. If anybody really wants to go into it, I would always advise going to an accountant who is very much involved in these things, because it's one of those which can be very fun to go through. So yeah. If I def, then I'm suing you. Fair enough. I'll probably be dead though. The boat game was fun, Daddle, but we completed it yesterday, so say la vie. We'll be playing some other stuff, so that's kind of how it is. Nice to see you, No Vice. Hopefully you're doing alright. Right. So then we have Rick Olives. Or just play arcade, and here's why. Nobody sits at maximum altitude in arcade because nobody's protecting their virginity. What? It's always constant fighting, nobody hides. People immediately spawn AA even at the very start of the game. In realistic, people only spawn AA when they die to CAS. I'm in an AA right now at the start. But, I mean, we were playing arcade in the video, I don't know. People... In arcade, you will have fun. Yes, I said it. Fun, no more of a meme, where people, especially Reddit, say the game isn't fun. When people do spawn air, it's limited, and the enemy team isn't flying around. Oh, you mean like for the CAS stuff? I mean, fair. Like, you know, it's just kind of how it is. Oh, Age of Water? Well, yeah, Age of Water isn't available yet. But when it comes out, we'll have a look. So yeah, I mean, you can play arcade and not have to deal with the CAS stuff, but, you know, as we've said, a lot of the CAS stuff comes down to people just being annoyed for that specific moment, and then just kind of going from there and not really dealing with anything else, so it's just how it is. For me, I think what is important is just people kind of play what they want. Like, I've never liked the rivalry between different game modes. I think it's pretty important to play a bunch of different stuff and kind of enjoy a bunch of different stuff. There's no reason to be fearful or anything, or hatred of different game modes. Just give them a go and see what happens. You might like them, you might not. That's the main thing to remember. Like, if you don't like them, that's alright. You can just play something else. And, you know, different game modes have different advantages and disadvantages. For me, as found out like last week, you know, arcade is very snowbally to a ridiculous point. And ground realistic is incredibly snowbally, but arcade is way worse. At least from what I've seen and played. Then we have Key Gang Gallop. Hey Tech, how is the Chinese ground tech tree? It's pretty good. Its air tech tree is very boring, but its ground tech tree has enough unique stuff to keep it interesting, and the high tier is, you know, they've added so much stuff to it over the time, which has been lovely to see. And generally, I would say I've had a very good time playing it over the years. The only time I didn't have a good time with it was when they decided to add in the tree at 5.7, and they added in all of those Soviet SPGs/SPHs, which were all crap. So it wasn't very enjoyable, I've got to say. So for me, there we go, Jesus. So for me, the more interesting thing was getting through that, and then getting to that like 7780 area, which was a lot of fun. So China's actually a really good starter nation for people, because it has a bit of like everything. So if you kind of want like different experiences, you can get like American, you can get German, you can get Japanese, you can get obviously Russian. There's a bunch of different stuff that's available, right? So I think that's why it's pretty cool. If you've already ground out a bunch of stuff from those nations, it's not going to be as fun because we've already played that stuff. So it's just kind of what you enjoy or what you kind of feel like. So that's kind of how it goes. Hopefully, in the future, they just keep adding stuff to China because it's had so much added to it and it's really, really fun. So I think it's pretty good. And hopefully more people enjoy it and, you know, kind of get away from the boring copy-paste memes nowadays. Like, whenever any tech tree comes out, it's gonna have, you know, copy-paste stuff in it just to kind of fill it out to start with, and then it gets its unique stuff later on. It's happened with a lot of stuff. The thing that really annoys me about War Thunder, but this is just like, I don't know, this isn't mainly a War Thunder thing, it's just a life thing. I'm really sick of the fact that politics or like historical opinion on things dictates what people play as much as it does in a video game or in like different parts of life. Like, oh well, we can't have this food because it's from this place, or you know, we can't play this part of the game because it's influenced by this. And it's just like, just play it, man. Like, just have a bit of fun. Like, it's not like you're playing like propaganda or anything like that. Just have a bit of fun and have a bit of a laugh. You know? Enjoy yourself. Don't have to go crazy or anything. Pop. Right, then we have the Arakan. Are they also staying away from Soviet criminals? What? Sure. I don't know. I think most people should stay away from Soviet criminals. They should probably stay away from all criminals, to be honest. Usually not very nice people with very low morals. Then we have Internet Explorer. Arcade. Yes, arcade. Because we were doing the event and also spading the Strela. And the Strela is one of those things that's good in pretty much everything, so the idea was to play an arcade just to get it done because it was easier to do while doing the event and also doing the tech talk because, you know, concentrating on like 2 things or 3 things at the same time ain't too bad, but then when you add stuff on top of it, it's not easy. So for example, you know, right now we have the question, we have the game, Twitch chat, you know, the alert stuff, Discord things. You know, I got a bunch of like emails like while we're doing this stuff. So yeah, it's more about managing workload in my head, in terms of how all this stuff works. So yeah, it's just how it is at the end of the day. Arcade is easier to spade AAs with, for obvious reasons. You know where the enemy's coming in from and you get the target marker. And then we have Angry Cat, first again, teehee. So we have Michael Jackson and also Axomax. So stop at 31 seconds. Frame looks like a War Thunder shitpost. Ow! Why are you showing me War Thunder ads? It's just me shooting down something. I mean, fair enough. It's me. That's how I look like. I need to actually shave, if I'm honest with you. My beard's a bit long right now. Like, I haven't shaved in a couple months, so I need to get that done. But yeah, overall it's not too bad. So that's the tech talk done, at least the comments. Do any of you have any other thoughts or have any questions / discussion things or anything else you want to go through? Like, it's a decent tech talk going through different stuff. trying to make sense of a few things. Hopefully next week we can have a look at like some different stuff. Obviously, I think next week should be Battle Pass stuff, right? Or at least new Battle Pass stuff. That could be good. First Battle Pass of the year, and hopefully it has some changes in it, so we can relax a little bit with it. Can you explain your actions in the Middle East with Blackwater? No, especially with all the Houthi stuff going on right now. So, unfortunately, the lips have to be sealed for at least a few more years. If you want to see a really funny video, though, you can have a look at Rishi Sunak trying to justify all the stuff they're doing over there. It was really funny listening to him because it was as if he just kept like, you know, coming up with different reasons for things when he should have just said simple stuff. Will Yemen surrender? Well, isn't this like a break-off rebel group? Isn't that the idea? So no, stuff like that never surrenders because the leadership never dies. They just keep replacing each other. What tranche of Typhoon do you think will be added first, the FGRs or the FRs? Whichever ones have the least capabilities. How cold is it? Right now, I think it's like -14. So yeah, it's the issue was it went from like 5 degrees to -12 in the space of about 4 hours. So it caught a lot of people off guard who weren't looking at the weather, so kind of hurts, but it do be how it is. Thoughts on Werther's cream candies? You mean like Werther's originals? They're really good. Tastes really nice, and one of the things I didn't realize is over here there isn't like treacle or golden syrup or like anything like that. So I've been slowly kind of adding those things in for people to give a go at, which was quite nice. So been enjoying a lot of stuff like that. He doesn't know what a homeless person is. My favorite video of him will always be there. I have friends from all over the place, you know, upper class, middle class, lower class. Oh no, not lower class. Yeah. Such a ridiculous video, man. And it was done when he was at university, but yeah, it was such a silly thing. Bought a bag yesterday, have I like 10 already? They are hugely addictive. Have you ever had the British hard-boiled candies from like Simpkins, I think they are? They do a rhubarb and custard one, which is just fantastic. New Battle Pass hopes? 3 a year instead of 4. Adding in voice lines to them, so you get like a unique voice line per Battle Pass. Maybe adding in animated decorations. You know, they've been doing that over the past, which has been nice. They could add in, what do you call them? They could add in the plain smoke. That would be kind of cool. Those are the things I'll go for. All right, so that's the tech talk done for this week. So, because I'm hungry and I need to go for a piss, but hopefully you've enjoyed it. We'll continue streaming as always. Yeah, look after yourselves, especially in this cold weather. Hopefully everybody makes it through okay. And yeah, if you have any thoughts, make sure to stick them below. See you soon. Bye-bye.